When I played my very first Resident Evil game many years ago, I wasn't even close to fully understanding just how deep the story went. I booted up RE4 on my GameCube, watched Leon do some sick backflips, toss out a few one-liners,
Bingo!
and decided to call it a day. But it's now 20 years later, and after playing more of the new mainline releases, I've learned there's apparently so much more to the series than just every character being extremely freaking hot. So with the help of our good friend Nettie the Noodle, we've got a movie-long timeline to help us learn all the ins and outs of what shaped the franchise into what it is today. Without further ado, hey, hi, hello, and welcome to a reaction to the full story of Resident Evil Explained.
When I think of Resident Evil, a distinct memory comes to mind. It was 2011. I was in a Blockbuster, which was how us old people often rented movies and games, and while I was walking around the store as a 9-year-old being supervised by my mom, I remember coming upon one of those cheesy Resident Evil movies. I'd seen that name on game covers before, but I didn't think much of it. Leaving the store after my mom let me rent some PG game for the PS2, I thought...
No, see, mine was similar. Blockbuster, but it was Resident Evil 4. It was Resident Evil 4, and my dad let me play it, and it scared the hell out of me. The OG Resident Evil 4, when you get to the village and it's dark outside and there's like stormy, oh, no. I couldn't. I was like 10 years old. It was horrifying. It was horrifying. On the game, I couldn't even finish. I put the game away, revisited it again like a year later, became one of my favorite games of all time.
What about Resident Evil again in the car? And for over a decade after that moment, I continued to be reminded of the franchise every now and then when I'd hear game announcements, see articles, or just find one of Capcom's many Steam sales for the games. But you know what?
W-Series.
I never once touched the franchise. That is,
what?
Until last year when Resident Evil Requiem was announced. At last, I decided, hey, Requiem's about to come out, and these games are clearly beloved by millions of fans for a reason, so it's about time I find out if all the hype about this gigantic franchise is really justified, placing the latest title in context with the others. And after beating 9 and getting both endings, I can confidently say it freaking slaps and is perhaps the most important game as far as lore
really?
I've seen yet.
I just know it's a great game.
We'll cover it all. Where did the viruses
Look how
begin?
cute he
What new
is.
big bads will we discover in Requiem, and does
Yo,
the
Foolish
other
90,
side
welcome to
please
stream.
don't kill my boy, he's too handsome. If you like the
He's
video,
too
be sure to
handsome.
click the like button in
Leon
the face
Sex
and
Machine
enjoy the
Kitty.
full story of Resident Evil Explained.
Part 1. Biohazard.
Our story
I did it better.
begins in 1909 in a remote village in Eastern Europe. A woman named Miranda had a daughter, whom she named Ava. 10 years later, in 1919, the Spanish flu swept over the region and snuffed out the life of the then 10-year-old Ava. After her daughter was buried, Miranda couldn't live with herself anymore and went to a mysterious cave to die so she could be with her child again. But instead of dying, Miranda found something there that would change the history of humanity. She found a big old fungus, heart-looking mold.
The
called
Megamycete. Oh, yeah.
When she touched it, Miranda saw the memories of a bunch of people who had died, been buried, and then got absorbed into this entity through the ground, including her very daughter. By touching the mushroom, Miranda became infected by it, but instead of merging with the mold, she remained intact. Seeing the visions of countless deceased people, she was all like, wait a second, I can bring my daughter back to life, and proclaimed...
I will say, not only is the shot beautiful, but Resident Evil probably had the best character design out of any of them. I think it's kind of hated on in some of the community. We ignore the hate anyways. We just play games because they're fun, whatever. But I was surprised to see that it was kind of hated on because people were saying it's remastered Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4 was fucking awesome. Put Ethan in his own version of Resident Evil 4. Also awesome. Very cool character designs. I loved it. Mother Miranda looked amazing. We love that shit.
The mushroom or mold as the Black God.
I love the Evil Sisters. Yeah, all of it was so good. I loved it.
Self-proclaimed prophet of the Black God.
Dimitrescu.
Spreading the religion and infection to her fellow villagers, she actually managed to cure their ailments, healing the sick with the mold's properties. Her goal in establishing power was not simply for the benefit of the villagers, though. She was going to bring back her daughter no matter the cost.
They were so hot. Village,
she began doing science experiments using the mold, eventually leading to her inventing something she called the cadeau. Basically, this was a parasite infected with...
That's why they have the sisters there, by the way, just in case you were wondering. Because they make you look at this guy for however long. They're like, you know, we need a little bit of balance to this. So we'll ease you into this with the goth mommy vampire sisters, and then we'll show you this thing.
The mold that had very unstable properties. With the Cadeau, she sought to create a host person suitable for Ava's personality and memories to be transferred into. Seemingly, this host needed to be real strong for this to work, though, and the Cadeau was kind of a test of strength for
I will
its soon
punch that
thereafter
child.
victims.
I will
Miranda
uppercut that
wasted
child.
no time before she experimented on most of the people in town
gross.
with her Cadeau. A majority of them ended up either dying or transforming into creatures called lycans, which were basically werewolves. Of the countless failed experiments, 8, however, were successful, 4 of which being the direct descendants of the ancient Four Lords, which had previously ruled over the region long ago. These include characters which you've probably seen before, like the 9'6" Alcina Dimitrescu,
9'6" is
the decrepit
crazy.
Salvatore Moreau, the doll-wielding Donna Beneviento, and this certified metal bender Carl Heisenberg. But we'll get into these
Heisenberg
curious characters
was also
later on,
pretty
because
damn
there's
handsome.
one man in particular that we must cover first and foremost, who would go on to change the world in the worst possible ways. In the 1950s, this man got lost in the Eastern European mountains, being discovered eventually by Miranda. Oswell E. Spencer came from a rich, elite European family, and as he grew into a strapping young man, he studied
Daddy
at a
Heisenberg,
prestigious
true.
institution to become a physician,
Walter.
making 2 rather important friends along the way, Edward Ashford and Dr. James Marcus. They'll come in soon enough. It was in the 1950s that, on a hiking expedition, Spencer got lost and was rescued by Miranda. But instead of going on his merry way, Bro decided that what Miranda was doing was sick as fuck. He trained with her as
Crazy edit there.
He was 27 at this
MLG
time.
horns, cue
Hungry
him.
for knowledge, especially if it meant he could change the world with said knowledge. See, Spencer really wanted to evolve humanity because he saw how humans always tend to resort to war, and he basically pulled a Sam Altman and just saw humans, as they naturally come, as wildly inefficient. Bro wanted to optimize human genetic code. After respectfully parting ways with Miranda, Spencer went back to his university and started a secret group of scientists to do research that could change the world. Spencer wanted to make bioweapons and viruses and stuff, but his main obsession was eugenics. Either way, he was exploring all of his options to evolve humanity.
Oh, hi, Mouse, by the way. Welcome
Fast
in.
forward to 1966.
19.
Spencer and his circles start investigating this West African tribe called the Nidapaya that
Oh, I
historically
got you,
used a
Sekra. Thank you.
mysterious flower called the Stairway of the Sun. The flower,
Beautiful.
which was highly poisonous, killed most people, but to those who didn't outright die, it allegedly gave them godlike strength.
Ew.
Spencer's buddy James Marcus was like, yo, we should go check that out. So Spencer sent Marcus and another researcher named Bailey to go and research it. They studied the flower under hostile circumstances as the Nidapaya were constantly attacking them, but eventually they made progress. Marcus and Bailey returned to Spencer in the United States with the data, but found that extracting the virus from it had only worked in the local environment where the flower grew.
This is also Resident Evil 5. By the way, just in case you guys are wondering, we need to play Resident Evil 5. We might actually do, there's no remake, but I think I'd want to actually play the OG and just, I believe it's on Steam. And if not, we'll figure it out. But might actually play the OG and then wait for a remake later on. I don't know if they'll ever remake this one, but I hope it's coming up soon. They just said 4. So it'd be really cool to have 5 after a little break between Requiem and whatever else.
Spencer was getting pretty fed up with this shit by 1967, but Marcus was still obsessed with the flowers. Him
6'7".
and Bailey further colonized that little flower growing spot, even killing the Nidapaya if they had to, and they successfully managed to extract the virus at last.
I get to play Sheva, because I'm a queen. Thank you.
Dubbing
Girly pop.
an incomplete virus the progenitor virus. So Spencer at this point is like, oh, okay, now I'm interested. And from then on, he started to do some really fucked up shit. Progenitor was huge
Yeah, he
for
did.
Spencer. By now, the man was 44 years old, filthy fucking rich, and desired glorious evolution in any way possible.
Shout out,
With his
Victor.
wealth, he had created many different business ventures, including the Spencer Foundation, which he recruited Marcus to come work under in the States. Spencer had a very talented architect named George Trevor build him a huge mansion estate in the fictional Arklay Mountains in the Midwest United States, this thing being riddled with traps and evil shit. Spencer was just fucking weird. And he also used the same architect to build a gigantic laboratory underneath his estate. But then Spencer had a paranoid realization. He thought to himself, wait a second, now the architect who designed my super evil facility knows everything about my super evil facility because he literally designed the entire thing. I think I need to kill him.
You gotta
And
kill
his
him.
family.
You gotta
It's
kill
like,
him.
you wanna know what's
Or
been-
better yet, experiment on him, transform him. Secret, don't time me out. I'm the beat leader. The fuck was I trying to say?
Spencer did instead something so much worse. He invited George and his wife and daughter to stay in the estate with him for a week. Except Spencer had no vacation planned for the family. He was going to kidnap the architect and his family and use them as human test subjects for the progenitor virus.
That's the only likely
Why would the
solution.
guy who made this estate and the traps within it let his wife and kid vacation there? What the fuck was he thinking? Either way, George was running late, but he told his wife and daughter to go on ahead of him while he finished up some work.
I loved
After
RE5.
Jessica
It was a great
and Lisa
game.
arrived at Spencer's estate, Rowe took them and drugged them. Spencer wanted to gain data on the virus, and the wife and daughter seemed like perfect test subjects for 2 different strains of the progenitor. The wife, Jessica, died from being injected with the type A progenitor virus strain, and the daughter, Lisa, was injected with the type B, but she survived. Over time, she gradually mutated worse and worse, but was still alive, gaining near immortality. She was mentally...
It was fucked. Yeah. I don't know if you guys have seen this. So Resident Evil 1 is probably one of the first Let's Plays I ever watched on YouTube, like forever ago. I'm talking forever ago. Like when we used to watch Rad Brad. Does Rad Brad still post YouTube videos? I'm about to have a mind-blowing realization right now. Rad Brad. 9 hour. Oh, he still posts daily. Holy shit. Yo, this was my goat growing up. Okay, not going to sidebar too much there, but I remember seeing this thing for the first time. Dude, this thing actually gave me nightmares. I say this thing, his daughter. This is a fucked creation. The faces and what, it's pretty gnarly, dude.
Dilapidated, and the sick fuck that Spencer was just kept her imprisoned in their facility. The dad, George, arriving late several days later, met with Spencer and was told by him that his family left to go visit their aunt. George believed Spencer, but he was a little skeptical, continuing to stay at Spencer's for a few days before he too was drugged. He tried to escape, but because of his drugged state, he ended up stumbling into one of his own traps and got stuck in a pit, dying of malnutrition and thirst many days later. So by now, you should really hate Spencer. But oh, this is just the start. In 1968, Spencer funds the construction of an entire facility in the West African caves, all under his newly created corporation, one you've most definitely heard the name of before. Oh yeah, I'm talking about Umbrella Corps, the logo design of which was taken from the symbol of the 4 lords back in Miranda's village. See, it's all connected. Now, Spencer wasn't quite done with his insane paranoia, though. In 1968, Spencer's colleague Edward Ashford and Edward's son Alexander were virus connoisseurs who had knowledge of Spencer and his projects. The Ashfords had different goals for the progenitor virus and moved on to an Antarctic facility for a separate project. But due to Spencer's paranoia that Ashford would get in his way or betray him, he had Edward killed and Alexander sent to the Ashford-owned prison island in the southern Pacific Ocean, which will be important later.
Logical
Spencer
conclusion.
is just a paranoid little freak man.
No, Spencer is just misunderstood, just like Odin in God of War. And he's making very logical conclusions here. Everybody around you must die. Let's proceed.
All right, so fast forward 10 years.
Except for that thing,
Lisa,
apparently.
the little girl turned brain damaged monster, was still just living in or around Spencer's facility and estate in the Arklay Mountains. And around this time, the West African facility's construction had been finalized.
She's a little
Dr.
nervy.
Marcus, still obsessed with the flower research back in Africa, requested 5 progenitor virus samples to be sent from the African research facility to where he was in the U.S.
Oh, just a little nervy, guys. Sorry, my anxiety got the best of me. I slaughtered her whole family. Just a little goofy guy sometimes. Oops.
A month later, on January 13th of 1978, Dr. Marcus sent a simple telegram message back to the research center. T-virus development a success. He had done it. This was the first instance of the T-virus that could actually be used as a proper bioweapon, specifically utilizing leeches. On the other hand, Spencer was working on other big research in the field of eugenics. Spencer realized that the biggest change
Good old
in the
Wesker.
world was by utilizing the youth, so he began testing on them.
What a
With his
fucked
Spencer
human being.
Foundation, he was kidnapping kids from their families and raising them in lab environments. Spencer specifically took highly intelligent kids as he believed they would be good hosts for a later, more developed progenitor virus. These kids were stripped of their identities and renamed the Weskers after a lead researcher, who we know very little about. By now, Spencer and Marcus were the only 2 big researchers at Umbrella doing crazy shit and making big developments, as far as Spencer was concerned. They were competitive and neither really trusted each other. Marcus progressed from using animal testing to testing on human children. Spencer continued to grow paranoid about Marcus, eventually having one of his Weskers, Albert, spy on him. So Albert worked alongside another prodigal young researcher named William Birkin. Both Albert and William worked for Umbrella, and they started to gain the trust of Marcus over time. But in 1988, Birkin, Wesker, and some other Umbrella soldiers were ordered to murder Dr. James Marcus and steal his research, so Spencer could have it.
I will take over your research.
You know what I do want? I don't know if this is maybe in one of the CGI movies. I do want a movie that kind of goes into the details of the Birkin family and like the entire Umbrella incident that involves it. Because you get a lot of cutscenes in Resident Evil 2. You get a lot of talking about it, a lot of documentation, but I would really like something that kind of dives a little bit deeper into the experimentation. And Wesker over here, a little more backstory with all that stuff.
I will take over your research.
I will take over your research, and I'm gonna
This is where
fuck your
Spencer
wife
really-
too.
Even though he had Marcus killed and him and his leeches just dumped into a river, Bro was going to haunt Umbrella from the watery grave. Marcus's queen leech he had developed before his death entered his corpse and basically merged with him, eating his brain and gaining his memories. Thinking it was Marcus himself reborn, the queen leech transformed itself into this twink, a version of what Marcus looked like when he was younger. From there, the disguised queen leech patiently schemed to get revenge for its deceased host and royally
That's
fuck
crazy.
over Spencer and Umbrella as a whole, leading to the culmination of its plan 10 years later in 1998. And this is where shit gets real.
Resident Evil.
Before we can really talk about the
What a
incident,
cool
you need to understand rather important metropolis called Raccoon City. From around the 1960s to 1998, Raccoon City had huge amounts of funding and support from Umbrella Corps, which contributed to its growth, making the city a center stage for its research. Thus, its population grew to over 100,000. Because Umbrella employed about 30% of the city's workers, the mega corporation had huge ties to it. As Raccoon City was close in proximity to the Arklay Mountains, Umbrella established a tram network to connect Spencer's estate to the city, among other hotspots in the area. The Queen Leech, who had been in hiding for 10 years, knew about Raccoon City quite well because of this, and because of the fact that it had Marcus's memories. With that context in mind, the plans were set in motion in early 1998. The Queen Leech, which from here on we'll just refer to as Twink Marcus, caused a T-virus outbreak in the
Marcus.
Arklay laboratories
It's
in the
crazy.
Spencer mansion, causing multiple human and dog zombies to escape the facility and infect people, including hikers and other randos. The Raccoon City Police Department tried and failed to figure out what the fuck was going on with these attacks, so eventually they called in their Special Tactics and Rescue Service team, the STARS. Fast forward to July 23rd, 1998. Twink Marcus was about to use the Arklay tram network to cause irreversible damage by spreading the T-virus further than he had by that point. That same night, STARS' Bravo team were investigating the area to figure out the murders. They flew over the woods by helicopter when an unknown engine fail occurred, leading to an emergency landing and the discovery of murdered soldiers. On the remains of the deceased, the squad found information about a prisoner, ex-Lieutenant Billy Cohen. The man was sentenced for execution but was clearly on the loose in the forests of the Arklay Mountains. Rebecca Chambers, a medic and security officer on the Bravo team, discovered a stationary train on some railroad tracks. She entered in search of Billy, but discovered the train was filled with undead passengers, and she was locked inside. While investigating the train himself, Billy Cohen went on to find Rebecca. Did I mention the train started, by the way? It was just barreling down the tracks by now. While Rebecca was skeptical of Billy's trustworthiness at first, the two of them eventually teamed up, desperately stopping the train as it crashed into a tunnel underneath the Umbrella Executive Training School, which is where Marcus had been doing his T-virus research all those years before. As Rebecca and Billy made it out of the tunnel...
How plausible is it that the kidnapped lab kids had kids and that's Grace? I believe it's too early on for Grace to be born yet. Because Requiem takes place in 2024, 2026? So Grace wouldn't have been born for quite some time after this, at least like another 20 years as far as I'm aware. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty confident in that one.
Into the complex, Albert Wesker and William Birkin.
It is the
watched
same
them
idea,
through
though.
Facility cameras observing the duo. Their spying was interrupted though as Twink Marcus showed up on one of their screens with something to say. Basically, he was like, "Yeah, so I was the one who spread the T-virus in Spencer's mansion." Also, you guys fucking suck. Rebecca and Billy searched the training complex for answers, which Twink Marcus responded to by sending rabid infected apes after them. All the while,
Of course,
Wesker told Birkin he was gonna ditch Umbrella Corps altogether, seeing it as a sinking ship, given the situation. Wesker simply wanted to test the T-virus in a combat scenario before he left the facilities completely and moved on. He told Birkin that to do this, he'd utilize his leadership position with STARS to lure some of his subordinates to Spencer's mansion and test how some of his armed soldiers would respond to T-virus zombies. Birkin, on the other hand, didn't want to leave Umbrella just yet because he was working on something called the Golgotha virus, short for G virus. This one was more powerful than T, but it's going to come in later on. As Wesker was leaving Birkin in an elevator, Birkin said he'd arm a self-destruct device in the training center's basement to destroy the evidence of Twink Marcus. But it's like, bro, the virus is still out there in other places. It's breached containment.
Silly goose on the loose. That's a fire hat. That is a fire hat.
After entering an elevator, Rebecca finds her lost squad member, Enrico. Why do I get the feeling this guy's not going to live more than like 5 seconds?
All right, just be careful. I never saw him again.
After she searched through an umbrella-operated sewer system,
Sick dialogue,
Rebecca found
dude.
Billy, who'd previously gotten swept downstream. And from there, they found Twink Marcus's gooning room, where he trauma dumped them about Marcus's assassination. Rebecca and Billy decided to let him yap for a bit, but eventually they had to put him down.
How many other lore videos do you think use the phrase Twink Marcus's gooning room to explain the history of Resident Evil?
And from there, they found Twink Marcus's gooning room, where he trauma dumped them about Marcus's assassination. Rebecca and Billy decided to let him yap for a bit, but eventually they had to put him down. And this guy just fucking refused. Using the power of sunlight and a fucking magnum, they deliver the final blow to the Queen Leech and escape the facility as it self-destructs. Boom. Unscathed,
like
but most likely mega exhausted, Billy and
the
Rebecca
theme
took
of
a
escaping
moment
these
atop a cliff's
facilities.
edge to just have a breather. Rebecca told Billy that she'd help him fake his death as a way to protect him from being pursued. And from there, the two of them split up. Rebecca headed to Spencer's mansion, and this leads us to the game that started it all, Resident Evil 1. Before we get to that though, let's just take a time out. This video is first and foremost intended to be digestible, so let's slow down, take a sip of water,
No, don't tell me what to do.
recap everything that just happened so we can actually absorb this insane convoluted story.
Okay, cool.
It all
Recap.
started with Miranda and the Megamycete. Spencer met her and they did evil gooning experiments together before eventually parting ways because
Yeah,
each
we need a
had
gooning
different
counter
goals.
in this
Spencer
video.
and his boys discovered the funny African flower and committed unfathomable colonization against the tribal natives who originally found it. Spencer makes Umbrella Corps, builds so much infrastructure, privately subsidizes a huge amount of Raccoon City's funding, and therefore its continued growth. Then, as he got old, Bro got paranoid and killed off most of his day ones, as well as the architect that built his fancy-ass mansion. Then he infected the architect's daughter, proceeding to experiment and torment her for fucking decades.
For forever?
Still,
Yeah, dude,
Spencer
decades
was
is
every year.
crazy.
From there, Spencer's only real
Oh my
competition
God.
left alive, Dr. Marcus,
A little unhinged
was
here, huh?
probably
Yo, what's up, Wendy?
not alive. But as we know, Marcus's corpse combined with his Queen Leech to rebirth Twink Marcus, who plotted his revenge and caused the T-Virus to escape laboratories, even infecting Spencer's mansion. Stars were investigating murders in Arklay Mountains, which led to Rebecca and Billy doing their things in Marcus's training facility, all leading up to it getting exploded. Okay, and with that, we're all caught up. Shall we continue? So remember how Rebecca was on the STARS Bravo team? Well, it being the B team implies that there was an Alpha or A team. And as it turns out, there was. After B team went silent at the start of the events of Resident Evil 0, the next day, on July 24th, A team eventually did a helicopter search for them and they found B team's downed helicopter. Led by our very evil but pretending to be good friend, Albert Wesker.
He's misunderstood.
Followed a trail into
Misunderstood.
nearby
He just
woods
wants to
where they
help
were
people.
ambushed by a pack
Worship
of
him.
zombie dogs. Surviving 18 members ran for their lives
What's up, AJ?
and made it to what they assumed was a random mansion. But this was no accident. This mansion was the Spencer estate that Wesker knew was infected by zombies. He would use it as a testing ground to see how his squad would react. And speaking of that squad, allow me to introduce some of the key members, the few survivors of the mission. Chris Redfield is this
My
hunky
goat.
mate you've probably seen punch a
Punch a
fucking
boulder.
with his bare fist and on fire. Jill
That is
Valentine
so
a woman,
funny.
which meant the Resident Evil developers flipped a coin to decide whether or not they'd use her character for infinite tentacle porn scenes in every mainline appearance of her until the end of time. Again, I guess she's also like a member of STARS. Then we got Barry Burton, who's just kind of there. He's like a friend of Chris's, and also part of STARS, of course. He's actually going to be very important in the story much later on. And last but not least, we got Wesker.
I don't think I actually know the
again,
name
if
Barry.
It isn't obvious by
I
now,
know
is
this
acting as
scenario
a
here.
double agent. He's both the captain of Alpha Squad and he's working for Umbrella. He also becomes the franchise's big bad villain for many games to come. With those three
Wesker's
things
one of my
out the
favorite
way,
villains
we
ever.
continue
So
into
fucking
the
sick.
Spencer estate. Jill, Chris,
I
and
will
Wesker.
say, I do like a villain who just straight up wants to be evil. Like, they don't give a shit. We got a lot of villains who just kind of, like, they've got some sad backstory. They've got good moral reasoning, and, like, maybe it's an ends justify the means thing. No, Wesker just wants to be the god. He just wants to be worshipped. Like, I'm down with the villain who's just there to cause some chaos. Also, I like Sukuna so much. Give me a little Sukuna action from JJK. Oh, beautiful. He's a villain but knows how to do it properly. Absolutely. Gen Z Wesker wannabe is the best line ever. A little Xeno action. A little Xeno action never hurt nobody.
Wesker make it into the mansion after getting split up with Barry. This is going off Umbrella Chronicles, by the way, since it's told from Wesker's perspective. Anyway, Chris
I need to
and
see that
Jill
one.
find
Need to play
Zombie
that.
as they're proceeding through the mansion, and eventually come across another member of their team, Richard, who'd been bitten by a giant snake. Right there next to him is Rebecca, who found her way into the mansion after all the shit she'd just gone through the previous night. Desperate for answers, Chris and Jill headed further into the mansion while leaving Rebecca to take care of Richard. It didn't take long for Chris and Jill to then stumble into the underground facility beneath the mansion, where they came face to face with Wesker, his facade fully dropped. Ro basically told him, yeah, so I'm evil, I set this whole thing up, I don't even need Umbrella anymore, and also, look at this thing. It's really cool. Chris, Jill, and Rebecca escaped the facility via helicopter right after a boss fight with the Tyrant. But before the facility self-destructed, Wesker woke up, literally reborn after dying from the whole impaling thing. But why the fuck did he come back to life? Well, as it turns out, Birkin had previously injected Wesker with a T-virus strain that would mutate and activate when he was close to death. As he was then activated with superhuman powers, Wesker escaped the facility right before it exploded in a fiery blast. But
I bet he lives that too.
Events of Resident Evil truly begin.
I bet that he's caught in that explosion. At this point he's so strong. I would bet he lives that. Wesker's crazy strong. The only reason he died, he became one of those characters where you kind of write yourself into a corner because you make him so strong. The only way that he can die is by being so arrogant of his power.
The entire world will be infected.
3 hours later.
A new Genesis is at hand, and I will be the creator.
I'm hoping RE5 kind of changes things up a little bit so that his death it just kind of makes more sense, because dude was OP as fuck.
What happened next would show how the vulnerable city nearby faced an unprecedented outbreak, leading to a point of no return.
The fall of Raccoon City. He didn't have a voice for that one, so
a couple
I had
important
to do
things
it.
happened with our established characters and with Umbrella and other corporations. We're still in 1998, by the way. In August, Chris Redfield traveled to Europe to investigate Umbrella. Jill Valentine continued to live in Raccoon City, and Rebecca Chambers, having had enough of Umbrella and all this STARS shit, just moved away. As far as corporations go, interested parties took note of what happened at the Spencer Estate and Arclight facilities. But still, the whole disaster was kept away from the public eye. Consequences have actions, though, and thousands of innocent people were about to have their lives uprooted. The Queen Leech was dead, so at the very least, the Leech situation had been dealt with back in RE0. However, a successful leak of the T-virus was about to happen, directly underneath Raccoon City, no less. Remember William Birkin? Well,
yeah, I remember that guy.
He was on completing his T and G virus research in facilities underneath the city. He negotiated with the US Army to ensure his eventual evacuation and safety, since by now Umbrella was beginning to be under heavy scrutiny by many parties. Furthermore, Birkin promised to provide his research to the US Army in exchange for him and his family being placed under witness protection. On September 23rd, though, one of Umbrella's special security squads were sent down into Birkin's facility to execute the man because they had found out that he was basically a mole. Once they reached Birkin, they mag dumped him and took his T and G virus samples. However, bro somehow didn't die.
What does he think is happening there? Cacophony! Cacophony! Great word.
This made him go Insano style, and he slaughtered most of the squad. He ate up the remaining G virus samples they'd taken away like they were fucking edibles, and this made him even
Birkin had one of the coolest
Birkin
transformations.
failed to deal with or even care about the T virus samples, which had been smashed open. Rats came along, lapped up the T virus samples, and this led to the water supply getting infected with the virus. Subsequently, most of the city was infected as a result. Back on the street level of Raccoon City, zombies were abound. By now, many thousands of people
bad mouse,
were infected by the tainted water. Military and local police response was there, but they were absolutely unprepared for the sheer force of the virus. After all, how could they possibly be prepared? Selfish, greedy,
what is this from? Am I missing? What is this from?
With psychotic leadership up and down the chains of command had caused this entire thing. And most people couldn't even begin to understand what had happened before it was too late. Enter Resident Evil 3.
3. RE3 intro? I don't remember that at all.
Well, she's been doing her homework ever since
I don't remember shit.
With her friends from that nightmare earlier. She's been investigating Umbrella Corps because they're obviously sus. She's just chilling in her apartment when suddenly she gets a call from her STARS friend Brad.
Jill is the Leon of Resident Evil.
Characters that start with B don't really matter that much, but this is Brad and that's Barry.
Hey yo, okay, Brad.
So Brad tells her to
I remember Brad. R.I.P. The homie.
Process what's happening.
Damn.
A giant tyrant.
One of the coolest starts to the game, for sure.
Umbrella to kill Jill. And after she narrowly escapes him, leaving her apartment, she's then chased by this fuck-ass dude throughout Raccoon City. She's about to get royally obliterated by the Nemesis, but then Jill is saved by Carlos Oliveira, who works for the Umbrella Biohazard Countermeasure Service, or the UBCS.
We talk about Leon, but damn, Carlos, you been in the gym lately, buddy? Appreciate that. Thank you.
From there, Jill has
Nemesis
to
is
run
pretty
around
crazy.
Raccoon City to power the subway station.
When I saw him grab a rocket launcher, I was like, wait a minute.
Chased by the Nemesis,
This is wrong.
UBCS member Nikolai.
Fuck you,
this Russian
Nikolai.
guy who's
Piece
only
of
after
shit.
his own best interest. Jill and Carlos save each other and become buddies. They get the subway station up and running, and Jill gets on the subway.
It's a weird
Carlos
fucking
and
door.
Tyrell, a UBCS friend, go out to find Dr. Nathaniel Bard, a scientist who's the head of some Umbrella Corps research. Bard was apparently the only person
That boy's
who
sweaty
knew
as
how to make
hell.
vaccines, and he also knew about Umbrella's corruption.
glistening.
So he was a liability. While they look for Bard, Nemesis destroys the subway, but it gets knocked out from an explosion, as does Jill. Also, Nikolai escapes. Carlos goes into the Raccoon City Police Department with Tyrell to try and find Dr. Bard, and Bro actually calls them on the telly and tells them he's stuck in the hospital with no way out, but he has vaccines. Jill radios Carlos and tells him that her train was destroyed by Nemesis, and then, what do you know, Nemesis attacks her. and the
Oh,
radio
that
goes off.
transformation's
Naturally,
so
Carlos goes after
sick,
her.
too.
Jill and Nemesis fight. Jill beats it, but not for long because Jill walks over his corpse and is attacked again, this time being infected with a virus bullet. Nikolai shows up to just kind of taunt her, and then 3 business days later, Carlos finds Jill and picks her up to take her to the hospital. He then searches the hospital to find vaccines and Dr. Bard. But before we find out what happened to Jill and Carlos, allow me to calmly whiplash you to another character's journey. See, Jill is all like ZZZZ in the hospital, and while she does that, it's around this time when the events of RE Outbreak
Resident
take place.
Evil
This is where we follow a
Outbreak.
particularly cunning reporter and how she deals with the current diabolical nightmare consuming the city. Also,
Say
she's
the name.
eventual
Yep.
mother of Grace,
Yep.
who we play as in our
Little
remote
Ashford
record.
time.
So this is important. Trust. All right,
It
let's go
is.
back in time. a little
Absolutely.
bit. Alyssa Ashcroft grew up in
Ashford.
Raccoon
I said
City and
Ashford, Ashcroft. Ashcroft. There's a difference. Ashford, Ashcroft. Ashford, Ashcroft. Get it in your stupid skull, critter.
became a journalist as an adult. In 1993, she investigated a small hospital in the Arklay Mountains with her fellow reporter buddy, Kurt. The pair had heard rumors that there was corruption in the institution, and as it turned out, there was corruption. The hospital director, Albert Lester, not Albert Wesker, by the way, was taking bribes from Umbrella Corps researcher Greg Mueller to test a strain of T-virus on cancer patients. The director had a personal interest in this as well, since his wife Dorothy was terminally ill. The strain worked at first, but then most test subjects died, and Dorothy turned into a zombie, wreaking havoc within the hospital.
Ew.
While Alyssa and Kurt investigated the hospital, Kurt was attacked and killed by Dorothy. Alyssa tried to escape, but she was captured by the Umbrella researcher Greg Mueller and had her memories of the event wiped, basically. Despite getting amnesia of the event, she kept being a dope-ass reporter, chasing stories in the Arklay region wherever she could. Fast forward back to 1998 when all the shit went down and zombies were roaming throughout.
Okay, 98. So we said RE9 was Grace Ashcroft age, RE9, 25 years old. So still no Grace. She's born in 2021. So just a few years away still. Trying to make sure my timeline is all together.
Raccoon City. Similar to Jill from just a moment ago, Alyssa too got infected during the Raccoon City disaster. But Alyssa tried to flee the city, determined to survive and find a way to not die from the virus. This was when she stumbled upon none other than Albert Lester, who by this point was just an axe murderer. Bro went crazy after his wife became his.
Did I say 2021? I obviously meant 2001. I think I know a little, just a little bit of math. That's on me. Back that on 2001. She's not 5 years old.
Since Alyssa had lost her
Wrong-
memory surrounding
wrong
Lester and his
third
hospital,
digit.
She had no idea who he was, and she just blindly followed his guidance since he claimed to know a way out of the city through the mountains. Lester knew who she was, but she didn't know him. Crazy. After Lester led
Hella
Alyssa
tentacles
to the
everywhere.
hospital, she kind of realized that Bro was trying to feed her to a giant fucking plant in the building's basement. This plant, Lester believed, was his wife. She kind of
What the
turned
fuck?
into it, mutating.
Need to
over time.
play these games,
Also, a
dude.
similar plan to this one has this weird cinematic shot in Outbreak where it squirts on the camera. What the fuck?
What
kink
in
is
the
this?
hell?
Why is
Dad.
there a plant ussy? What? Freaked Albert
Just-
Lester and his molester plant. Why
Cannot
are
escape the
defeated
plan.
by
What are
this
the? What is all of this? This just looks horrific. There's no. Is this like maybe it's like a symbolism for like birth and shit like that. Like they're making it look like this on purpose, but what the fuck?
Albert Lester and his molester plant wife are defeated by Alyssa, and the hospital completely caves in. Alyssa then escapes.
Does that count as gooning? I hope not. I sure hope not. I hope nobody's gooning to that.
Vaccine, so she didn't turn into a zombie. Big W for the reporter lady. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. While Alyssa is one important character who suffered in Raccoon City and managed to escape, we'll conclude her story later in the video. Before we get back to Jill and Carlos, there are some other
it's like something at Alien
True who had their own traumatic experiences in Raccoon
at the stomach.
City. Most of the stuff they did happened while Jill was still sleeping in the hospital, so let's talk about it. Two characters get entangled in the events of the city and have huge impacts.
Who gets entangled?
But many of the games in the franchise.
Oh my god, who is it?
One of which being playable.
Donald Duck.
I bet you can guess it. Leon had a rough life growing up. His whole family.
It's Leon, Chad. Leon.
Family was killed except for Leon because a police officer had managed to save his life. The orphaned Leon then grew up inspired by that police officer. Bro wanted to be just like him when he grew up. When Leon was 21 years old, he was officially a police officer, and he asked to be transferred to the Raccoon City Police Department because he was curious about all the crazy stories coming out of the Arklay Mountains nearby.
I don't believe Raccoon City wasn't nuked, right? It was just firebombed. That's why they're still able to have like everything there. There's no radiation and whatnot. He looks so young. Look how young he was. But I'm pretty sure it was just firebombed. Like they just burned everything. Or they pretended to nuke it so that they could kind of keep using it as umbrella, whatchamacallit, headquarters. You know what I mean? Where's everybody going? Sorry.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
Ooh, woo! If you're going to be that loud over Leon, you're going to need to turn the video up a bit. Okay, sorry. We're done. We're done.
Introduce the woman whose short trip to Raccoon City gets entangled with his own, Claire Redfield. If you recognize the last name, that's because she's the sister of Chris Redfield.
We'll turn the volume up
anyways. She grew
anyways.
up with him, and since he trained in the military, his own fighting skills rubbed off on her. The reason I'm introducing these two is because chronologically, after the previous events of the survivors during these dreaded September nights when everything was going to shit in Raccoon City, Claire and Leon both ran into each other at a gas station. Leon was out driving
$1.06 for gas. It's crazy.
Claire was riding into Raccoon City on her motorcycle.
Moving to Raccoon City.
For her brother Chris, not knowing he had gone to Europe the prior month. After noticing the gas station was looking really run down, Leon checked it out and found a cop trying to detain a zombie that proceeded to rip the cop's throat out. After Leon dispatches the thing, Claire shows up right before Leon narrowly saves her from an oncoming zombie. The two of them quickly escape an approaching horde in a cop car and drive into the city looking for answers. Long story short, Leon and Claire get split up, and the game revolves around these two characters navigating the now infected city, taking place in and around September 30th. Leon's story revolves around his arrival to Raccoon City to find out what's going on, and his subsequent interactions and romance with a mercenary named Ada Wong, who poses as an FBI agent. Ada herself comes in repeatedly later in the franchise. On the other hand, Claire's story, of course, revolves around her search for her brother Chris. While Claire and Leon progress through the city, they find and take care of a little girl named Sherry Birkin, who, surprise, surprise, is the daughter of William Birkin. Claire and Leon run into said William Birkin, now mutated with the G-Virus, of course, and they mag dump him. By the end of their journey, they narrowly escape Raccoon City along with Sherry.
This is so cute. This is one of the cutest scenes ever. I didn't expect to just have my heart all full of happiness and joy in a Resident Evil game, but they did it. They got me.
But what's so important about October 1st? Well, Carlos is about to find out for us. So while Jill is in her coma at the hospital, Carlos searches for Dr. Bard and he finds him, but the guy was shot in the head. Carlos finds a video message where Dr. Bard says Umbrella is evil and he regrets stuff. Luckily, Dr. Bard's computer unlocks a door that reveals a vaccine, which Carlos quickly snatches and injects into Jill. While she slowly heals, Tyrell shows up, and him and Carlos go check out what's on TV.
The contagion spreading throughout the city has been designated uncontainable. On October 1st, Raccoon City will be completely destroyed in a missile strike. All residents capable of rational thought are urged to evacuate immediately. This is not a test.
It's another day.
Not conducive to life. After Jill wakes up, she finds Tyrell, and Bro tells her that Carlos went underground to find more vaccines. Naturally, Jill goes after him to help out. Along the way, we see Nikolai in the underground, still just fucking stalking her, I guess. Eventually, after Jill journeys into the facility, Tyrell joins her, but he gets killed immediately by the nemesis, who's the token black guy. Jill makes a vaccine with the available resources she finds, all because the US government said they'd call off the nuke if there was a vaccine present in the city. Unfortunately, after Jill makes the vaccine, she gets ambushed by the Nemesis and Nikolai, who pushes her off a ledge because he wants to see what happens when she fights the Nemesis. Bro has ample data, he's just being an asshole. Carlos shows up and he's all like, yo, let me help you. Jill and Carlos kill the Nemesis again, except they don't, of course, because this thing doesn't fucking die. Jill tries to meet up with Carlos, but is...
I think at this point, most people can guess, if you played a Resident Evil game, that the mutation does not stop until it is an out-of-control mutation. At this point, Nemesis is still somewhat controlled. It resembles the shape of a creature that would probably hunt you, but it's monstrous, of course, but it still has like hands, feet, whatever. Up until it like covers the entire size of the room, it's going to keep evolving. The T-virus responds to trauma very well. Like the more trauma that your cells feel, like their body feels, the more pain you go through, the more it expands off of that and, keeps evolving and, well, makes you into what we're going to see right now.
Interrupted by...
Yep, that's disgusting.
Jill then uses this gigantic...
Dude, that gun is so sick.
...heavy ray gun. How is she carrying this, by the way? On
with her strong...
And now...
Strong-ass arms. No pain, no gain, yeah. If you think about it, Leon has been through a lot of trauma. Leon, I think they've all been through quite a bit, but I think Leon still does have the most, I would say. Between being a rookie and Raccoon City, then the Resident Evil 4 stuff with Ashley, he's gone through quite... And then obviously Resident Evil 6, kind of everybody goes through their stuff. Chris has also been through a lot as well, but he was more of a professional, I would say. Death pretty traumatic on the cells. Yeah, so it just goes crazy. Wonder what Leon would have turned into if he wasn't cured in RE9. Probably just a normal zombie. Actually, I wonder that... I think we talked about this before. The ability to choose, the people with stronger willpower tend to transform into the stronger stuff. I think it does react to a lot of our main characters because they are more involved in the story. They're not just some random person, nobody's scared. They have like some crazy shit instilled inside of them because they're doing it for this greater good, for science, for saving the world, or something like that. So maybe it helps transform like the trauma, the extra trauma added onto it, creates them into whatever. Cthulhu. He's also effective for so long. He has the old virus. No, I think he would have just died, right? I'm pretty sure he just bleeds out and dies. I don't think he transforms into anything. But I wonder what he would transform into with like a crazy version of the T virus. If he would be some wild Nemesis shit. The second Leon transforms into like a version of Nemesis, it's fucking over. GG's for everybody. It ain't no save, no stopping that.
Finds him knocked out. Then this happens.
Fuck Nikolai, dude. Piece of shit. Piece of shit.
Do you have any idea what you've just done?
The missile has launched.
Nikolai pleads with Jill and Carlos to let him go with them on the helicopter since the nuke is 10 minutes away from happening. But Jill's all like,
Who?
A lot of people. You! Who cares about your
Our two heroes fly away as the city is obliterated.
Yeah.
Okay, now, real quick. This is just my opinion, but Jill's character writing is dog shit. It's like when they wrote her as a strong woman, but not stronger than a man. She survives a rocket launcher to the ass, but needs a man to save her. She also acts like a hard-ass jerk to everyone, which makes her really unlikable. Now, before any purists burn me...
Okay, so I'm not going to go too crazy, because he's obviously going to touch on his little opinions and whatnot. I just thought they kind of made her rude for no reason. That was my thing when we were playing. She was cool. She's a badass. Jill's a fucking badass. But I thought they made her kind of rude for some reason. But I think you're just, when it's a zombie apocalypse and shit's going everywhere, you don't know who you can trust. You're with agents who backstabbed her, by the way. The guy she's talking to backstabbed her. It's very stressful. I think you had to cut a little bit of slack here. She might be an agent, but this is a scenario where nobody's really dealt with before. So I did think that initially, but kind of looking back at it, when you put yourself in a situation as chaotic as this, you gotta cut some slack to these people. Unless your name's Carlos, who's just genuinely nice guy, I guess.
At the stake, from what I hear,
that looks like a nuke. Yeah, it looks like a nuke. But
since they changed a lot from the original.
I know the Resident Evil 3 remake was not very well received, but I don't know the original. I only know the remake because that's all I've played. 2 remake, 3 remake, 4 I've played both. But hold on, 1 second. We've been talking about this. Raccoon City nuked? Yes, Raccoon City was destroyed in, it's a thermobaric missiles rather than a traditional nuclear bomb. Experimental thermobaric missiles, so it's just heat, fire. There is no nuclear radiation in Raccoon City, even in the bomb they use. It's experimental, fire-based. They use fire and didn't do shit, as we saw in RE9. It stopped a lot of them from moving, because when you go into RE9, they are still alive, but they're like encased. They're dormant. They're like saving energy. And I think because Leon and like the other agents activate, they create, they activate the zombies by maybe giving some signal of like, hey, there's food here. Come eat, bitch. You know what I mean? Then the zombies wake up. But they're just pretty much encased. They all lived. You just killed a bunch of innocent people probably. At the very least, you did stop it from like spreading out the infection. But you didn't really kill anything, you know.
Wasn't always like this, but I digress. While Raccoon City was effectively destroyed, Umbrella Corps would still survive for years to come before its eventual and absolutely deserved collapse.
And then there's more. When one dies, another spawns,
Umbrella's
like a Hydra.
stock plummets after the fall of Raccoon City, but the company, of course, shifts the blame onto something else, the US government. Given they had so many spies in the government,
that's what I do.
They were able to pull strings and use red herrings to distract everyone. With Raccoon City missiled, Umbrella knew there was little evidence tying them to much of anything. Nonetheless, they would meet the hand of justice within the next few years.
That's what they did the missile for in the first place, right? I think if you find out in RE6 that Umbrella was a part of the bombing in the first place, and it was to help cover up the evidence of Umbrella being like the main reasoning for this.
Before Umbrella would meet their end, our main cast of characters go on some side adventures. Some of these missions end up being important, so let's talk about them. After escaping from Raccoon City, Claire split off from Leon and the young Sherry Birkin to find Chris in Europe. Leon and Sherry were captured not long after by the US military. Sherry was put in protective custody, considering she was the daughter of such a dangerous man. Leon, on the other hand, was interrogated. The US military knew that Leon was a liability since he knew so much about Umbrella and the government's involvement in the whole disaster. Despite this, the government let Leon live since they could use someone of his insane BOW killing talents in a special anti-Umbrella agency run by the President of the United States himself. Also, BOW is short for bioorganic weapon. Leon is blackmailed into joining this agency to ensure his and Sherry's safety, and the government further trains him in close quarters combat and guns and shit. When it comes to the Redfields, by December 1998, Chris was still on the hunt, investigating Umbrella for their evil shit in Europe, and Claire was still searching for him, since she didn't find him in Raccoon City. But speaking of
like
Claire,
a phone call
let's
or
talk
something.
about her events, which transpire in one of the most important RE games, Code Veronica. Now this one
I've heard is very highly praised, but I know absolutely nothing about it. So all of this is brand new to me.
Chapter 1. Remember how Spencer had one of his old colleagues, Edward Ashford, basically...
Not Ashcroft, Ashford.
Edward's son, Alexander Ashford, moved back to the Ashford-operated Rockford Island. Alexander continued to do independent research, though, utilizing a facility him and his father had previously worked out of in Antarctica. Alexander developed a new strain of the progenitor virus called the Veronica virus. And if you're wondering about the name, Veronica was in reference to one of his ancestors in the Ashford family. With the T. Veronica virus, Alexander sought to make a T virus variant that didn't mess with the subject's cognition after they were infected. What's really messed up about the T. Veronica virus is that Alexander involved his two kids in his research, Alexia and Alfred. A lot of A names. But see, this backfired on him. His kids were freaky.
Just ripping off the wings? Okay. It's a normal day.
And actually decided to test this Veronica virus on him, their dad, in 1982.
How the hell do they get these facilities built? These are massive. Who are they contracting for this shit?
Bro turned into a monster since the version they infected him with wasn't really ready, and
The
Alexia then tested it on herself, but with the caveat that she'd cryogenically freeze herself for 15 years after she did so. I guess she figured by being frozen for 15 years, she'd somehow bypass the same fate of her dad. Spoiler alert, that didn't really do shit. Now, fast forward back to December of 1998. By now, the only currently living Ashford, Alfred, son of Alexander and brother of Alexia, was just a mere supervisor on the Rockford prison island. The guy had gone pretty insane with everything that happened with his dad and sister, and he was about to go fully off the deep end due to some visitors
That's my new canon.
who were about to show up. Albert Wesker attacked the island, causing an outbreak of the T-virus. He did this because he had learned about Alexia and wanted to see if she was a success. He wanted the T. Veronica virus. He was also just generally curious. The other new visitor to the island was Claire Redfield. See, while investigating a European Umbrella facility in Paris, she got captured by Umbrella and dumped on Rockford Island. As the island is under attack by Wesker's paramilitary group, the HCF, which stands for Huge Cock Foundation, by the way, many of the island's prisoners end up escaping, including Claire and this guy named Steve Burnside. Claire manages to send an email to Leon asking for help because, holy fuck, she was getting hunted down by the maniacal prison warden Alfred Ashford while everything was going to shit on this random-ass island. Leon sees this email and he gets in contact with Chris, proceeding to send him to the island to go find Claire, a bit of an Uno reverse card for these siblings. But when Chris gets there, Claire's gone. See, Claire and Steve ended up getting on a cargo plane that autopiloted them to the Ashford's Antarctic base. Once they got there and they entered this facility, Steve was infected with the Veronica virus, turning into this. Chris tracks them down and arrives to save the day. Steve dies though. R.I.P. Chris and Claire come face to face.
This is Leon with an earring. That's all it is.
And arrives to save the day. Steve dies though. R.I.P.
It's just Leon with an earring.
Chris and Claire come face to face with Alexia, who had just stepped out of the cryo fridge since her 15 years were up, and they have a tussle. Alexia fucking dies, a self-destruct sequence gets initiated, of course.
Yeah, why wouldn't there be? There's always...
Chris have a little homoerotic showdown, and then Wesker gets a million metal beams dropped on him. He survives. Barely an inconvenience. Chris and Claire then escape the facility before it gets destructed. But strangely, Wesker survives the self-destruct and ends up actually getting a sample of the Veronica virus he wanted anyway from Steve's corpse.
See, that's what I'm saying. I think Wesker is so strong at this point. He would have survived the mansion explosion, whether or not he ran away from it way early on anyways. And they kind of rode this into a corner with him just being so insanely epic of a villain.
How did he achieve this when the facility nuked itself?
I don't know.
Right after Wesker got out from under the metal
You're the lore guy. Don't ask me.
So neither will I. The consequence of Wesker getting the Veronica virus
in
his
nuke.
body was going to have ripple effects. This is due to Wesker selling the Veronica virus on the black market, which eventually finds its way into the hands of a South American warlord named Javier Hidalgo in 2001. After reports that the drug cartel leader had access to bioweapons, the President of the United States sent a two-man army to go deal with this situation.
Yeah, see, I don't know this at all either.
Consisted of none other than our boy Leon Kennedy and a hard-ass soldier named Jack Krauser. Long story short, these two find Javier Hidalgo's daughter, Manuela. This daughter, like her mom, had a degenerative illness, and Javier thought she was going to die. Bro was going to do anything he could to save her. So he infected her with the Veronica virus, thinking this would help, and to keep her from turning into a monster beyond recognition, he had been constantly doing organ transplants on her. But where did he get the organs he was replacing her with? Oh, none other than countless random women he kidnapped. Leon and Krauser find this guy. He lets himself get bored by a giant zombie plant so that he can become a big old meat monster, and Leon and Krauser have a final showdown with the guy.
I guess it's just the plants are like, it's kind of like the Fibonacci symbol where plants are just a naturally grown part of, like the shape of a plant is just a very naturally occurring form of life. So the T virus being just a mutator of life would very likely turn a lot of these meat monsters, as you call them, into just meaty plants, right? Is that a hidden meaning, or am I thinking way too deep into it? You know what I mean? We're going like very plant-like plantussies a lot of the time, and it seems to just be a very common reoccurring theme. Not that Resident Evil doesn't really have that, or like this is the only one that it has, but I figured that's another part of it.
Manuela helps finish him off with some kind of fire ability, but she's not looking too good. As the three evac by helicopter, she
an angel?
Glows out of existence. I'm sorry, what?
What the fuck? Wait, what? The
straight up glows out of existence. I'm sorry, what? In retrospect,
playing
Leon
Legend of Zelda now.
Adventure isn't all that important right now, but it's going to come into play
okay.
later. Trust. Plus, it's Leon's lore, and Leon is important in 9, so I thought it needed to be mentioned, especially as it shows the consequences of Code Veronica. But with all this injustice, you're probably feeling like we need an actual successful mission by now.
Nah.
At least I do. And that's why we're finally going to get to talk about the fall of Umbrella.
Let's go!
2003. 5 years since Umbrella's actions led to Raccoon City getting deleted from the map. Unfazed by how fucking despicable they were, they had a rather important base of operations all the way in Russia.
That guy is dressed like the most evil of all evil villains. From like the medieval, but like modern.
Here, they were working on a new BOW, codenamed Talos. They planned to sell this new weapon off to poverty-stricken nations.
They made a lot of money with these.
But their plans were about to be foiled. A biohazard containment unit was on their way to the Russian facility on rumors that Umbrella was making some crazy shit there. This unit had none other than our two baddies, Chris and Jill, and they were hungry for revenge. heading down into an elevator, taking them deep within the
Baddies
facility.
indeed.
Chris and Jill proceed to a weird circular room where this Russian dude named Sergei Vladimir, classic Russian, basically tells them over the speakers that they have to fight the Talos BOW. According to Sergei,
I've seen this
it's
before.
controlled by Umbrella's Red Queen AI that he had yoinked from Spencer's facilities before the place got self-destructed.
I've seen that before. I'm trying to figure out in my little brain where that would be, but I think the area that probably has that information is clouded by my desire for Taco Bell right now. So we'll hold on to that later.
Years ago. Needless to say, Jill and Chris destroy Talos pretty easily. From the control room, Wesker, who had orchestrated the biocontainment unit actually finding this Umbrella base in the first place, confronts Sergei.
Like I've seen
the
all
conversation
this.
pretty much goes along the lines of this. My AI girlfriend over there is real, I'm telling you. She and I have a lot in common. That thing only tells you what you want to hear.
Good Wesker voice.
Also, wow, you need to get some bitches on your team.
I don't know if he would say that, but it's a good Wesker voice nonetheless.
Kind of hungry. Wesker yoinks a copy of the
Same.
Umbrella data from himself
Same, brother.
before promptly deleting their entire cloud network. And just like that, Umbrella is dissolved. All at the hands of Albert Wesker, no less.
Easy
Bro
peasy.
was just playing 4D chess. While many of the events we just covered are explained in the two Nintendo Wii side games, the Resident Evil Umbrella Chronicles and the Darkside Chronicles, it's at this point that the story takes us back to the mainline games. And not
Resident
just any.
Evil 4.
Chronologically, the next game to cover is the fan favorite Resident Evil 4,
Goated.
which thrusts Leon Kennedy into one of his most dangerous missions yet.
Third wheel. What?
Allow me to set the stage. It's 2004.
No, I'm skipping. I'm not allowing you. Okay.
And guess what? The president's daughter, Ashley Graham, has been kidnapped by a cult-like gang known as Los Illuminados, located somewhere in Spain.
Hibarachi live
Leon
voices?
heads to
It's
the area
pretty
to
good.
find and rescue her, as directed by the president's agency that he works for. These two cops
Sexy
drive
bitch.
Leon to the area, but they stop, and one gets out to go for a piss. He doesn't return. Leon goes looking for him, and he finds him, but, well, he's fucking dead. Leon's ambushed by some kind of zombie villager guy that you can assume killed the police officer, and from there, Leon progresses
Just
into the
parrying
remote
everything
village where he
still.
finds the other officer being burned at the stake.
Fuck.
Yum. Leon alerts the horde of insane villagers, but before he gets absolutely skull-fucked, a bell rings out, and they kind of just get lobotomized.
Let him say it
The zombies
again.
Stop attacking Leon.
Let him
and
say it
instead head
again.
towards the source of the bell, a nearby church.
Take your shirt off.
This, by the way, because she wants
True.
to fuck Leon. Later, Leon finds a man tied up in a
True.
basement when he
I will say Separate Ways. I didn't know there was an old DLC of Separate Ways. I thought actually Separate Ways was newer, but super cool to see how much Ada and Leon really kind of were parallel to each other, working side by side without them really knowing it. Parry's an RPG. I don't know if you guys have seen the videos of stuff you can parry in RE9. You can parry cars as well, just in case you were wondering. Like if a whole car is coming at you in that very early scene, parry and you're fine. Walk on
suddenly
over.
attacked by this huge village chief who quickly overpowers Leon and injects him with some kind of bug virus. It's at this point that I need to explain this whole bug virus
Las
thing and where it
Plagas.
originated from because it's super important in RE4 and 5. I'll make this brief because, again, I'm not trying to waste your time here. Back many centuries prior to 2004, this region of Spain faced a horrifying conflict. Some people ended up getting infected by this bug parasite species called the Las Plagas. When a person gets infected with a plaga, they become what's known as a ganado,
Bitch.
which basically means
ganado.
livestock. It was also at this time that there was an emerging governing family called the Salazars, who'd risen to power.
I love Ada so much. We love Ada. Tuna. All of us do.
After crusading against any infected ganado people in the region, the Salazars banished the ganado into a
Bacetas!
cave system. The Salazars then built a castle on top of these caves to keep the plaga sealed forever. But the subsequent peace did not last. Many years later, a descendant of the Ganados who were sealed in the
Sadler's
caves, Osmond
remake is
Sadler, found out what
great.
happened to his ancestors. He discovered the plagas and decided to make a cult called Los Illuminados, which means the Enlightened Ones. From here, Sadler cozied up to Ramon Salazar, the then descendant governor of the castle, who also just so happened to be a really sick and twisted individual. But since we're all caught up with the whole Las Plagas parasite, let's continue with Leon. Leon wakes up chained to the man he found earlier, who introduces himself as Luis. Luis gives some hints as to the potential location of the president's daughter before they both get free and he runs off. According to Leon's agent, Luis was a previous Umbrella employee. At last, Leon finds the president's daughter Ashley in a
Is there a single ugly character? Like human character? Is there a single ugly one? My throat. Is there a single ugly character in Resident Evil at all? Can we name one? Is there anybody? Like, that hasn't been transformed. Obviously, once they start transforming, it's like they're fucked. The lickers. That's different. And also depends on who you're asking. Because I'm just saying, hear me out. Spencer. Who the fuck's Spencer? Spencer. Resident Evil. Oh, he's older than shit. Does. Spencer. Okay, yeah. Oh, Oswell. Spencer. Yeah, older than shit. Lickers are goated. Someone in Village? Probably. Kritur. Okay. Well, what the fuck? How are you going to call me ugly? That's fucked. How am I? Oh, you said Kritur, please. I'm so used to hearing him as Oswell for some reason. I know him as Oswell. If you said Oswell, I would have known. But like his whole name is what, like people, I don't think anybody says Spencer. They say Oswell Spencer. So the Oswell part, I knew. Spencer by himself, I didn't know. I think I'm allowed the specific ways that I remember things to stay that way. You know what I mean? It's the Spencer Mansion. That was before the games that I've played though. You know what I mean? Like I know a little bit of all that stuff, but like 2, 3 is when I really kick it off. The big guy you buy stuff off of? Yeah, the Duke. We actually watched a theory video on the Duke not too long ago. There's not a whole lot of answers to him. I'm actually curious he is a magical being in and of himself as well. The Duke is pretty ugly, but I don't know if he's actually mutated as well either. Like, is he just human? Or was Oswell that ends well? Literally, you get a 10-second timeout. I was just curious, because they're all hot. Every guy's hot. Every girl's hot. Sometimes the lickers kind of get me going. Oh, what do you want from me?
Church and tries to calm her down so they can team up. Once she's reasonably chill enough, they attempt to escape the area for evac. They find Luis, and he tells them that they're both infected and they're going to need a vaccine. Luis then parts ways with the pair for a bit, sneaking off to have a little chat with, surprise, surprise, Ada Wong. She's mixed up in this because she needs Luis's help to find an important item, what they call the Amber.
Ada Wong can do no wrong. Wait, I fucked it up. Ada Wong can do no Ada wrong. Hell yeah.
As long as Luis can help her find it, Ada and her associates would help him escape
Careful,
the
don't
area
slip.
as part of a deal. Leon and Ashley find out from Leon's agent that the chopper can't get them due to the weather, so the pair go to the Salazar castle to meet up with Luis for some virus suppressants that can delay the effects of the plagas inside them. Once inside the castle, Leon and Ashley meet Mr. Ramon Salazar. This little shit is basically just helping Sadler fulfill his plan to infect the president's daughter with the plagas, have her taken back to the US, and then Bluetooth control her via his own queen plagas.
Hive mind shit.
Control anyone infected with the subordinate plagas.
There's an ugly one?
Doing this,
all of the ones that are really ugly are infected. Salazar's also infected as well. He's got the T virus. I don't think the virus is what makes him ugly, but I'm mostly talking about the normal people. Like, they knew he was going to be a bad guy, so they made him look weird. That was a guy? That was a guy. Yes, that was a guy. Ramon Salazar was a guy, yes.
He could infiltrate US intelligence and eventually take over the world. Bada boom, bada bang, Leon and Ashley fend off some enemies.
Whoa. Bada bing, bada boom.
But eventually she gets temporarily mind controlled and threatens to stab herself. Ashley comes to and freaks the fuck out. Reasonably so. Leon and Ada run into each other. God, they're both so fucking hot. After Leon finds Ashley again, she's all like,
W video, hold up. Before we forget, I'm just go ahead and like the video. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
And Leon's all like, Ashley, it's okay. You're like 9. Fast forward, Ashley inevitably gets grabbed and taken away again, and after her and Leon get split up, Leon and Luis run into each other, and they go to save Ashley. Along the way, they go on these fun minecart adventures, but then someone shows up who you definitely wouldn't have seen coming. Jack Krauser. Yeah, that guy.
Is that sarcastic?
I
think that was very...
organization now, and is...
Leon, help! I think I did pretty good, considering I can't really hit that note.
The one who kidnapped Ashley in the first place. He's also the one holding her hostage currently. Bro kills Luis, Big L, and Leon chases after
super
Krauser
fat
and
mega
on a
L.
rescue and revenge mission. Ramon Salazar tries to stop Leon, but bro is having fucking none of it. You slaughter the 3-foot meat morphing fuck and chase after Krauser and Ashley to an island off the coast, which
I like the script here. The script here is
great.
great.
You find some abominations, naturally having been created by Umbrella, such as this thing. I was the real fool.
Oh my god. Worst part of... I think those are the scariest enemies in the game. I'm trying to think of what else is scarier. I would love to do a tier list of every single resident. I've been on my tier list bender lately. Yeah, I've been on a tier list talk bender thing for quite some time. We did our first one for Subnautica, and I've been really excited about more tier lists. It'd be fun to tier list all the enemies and how crazy and scary they are.
Actually, but then she gets unsaved because Sadler's and Leon and Krauser have a little showdown. You know, for the longest time, before I knew anything about Resident Evil, I always thought that Krauser's form here was one of Wesker's forms. If you played 5, you could probably imagine why. Anyway, Leon kills Krauser, saves Ashley with the help of Ada, and the two of them burst into Louise's Umbrella lab thanks to the key he gave you before he died. Then they use his super sophisticated anti-Plagas torture device to rid themselves of their parasites. Ada is unfortunately captured by Sadler before she can make it to the lab. Leon naturally rescues Ada, and the two of them team up to bring Sadler down. Ada escapes on her helicopter with the Amber. She promptly yoinks from Leon, but then we get another self-destruct sequence. Leon and Ashley sailed away on a jet ski as the island is about to self-destruct, and it's honestly
per usual.
Ada then radios her employer and asks him what he's going to do with the Amber, and it's revealed that her employer is Albert frickin' Wesker. He explains that billions are going to die for the betterment of a few, and Ada, having heard that, points her gun at the pilot and orders him to change course.
Ada. I love Ada's actual character this, not just because she's hot, but the actual like parallels again throughout all of this, through RE2, all the fronts she puts up, but then ultimately like this is saving the world. Yeah, I mean Leon could have also had it as well, but at the same time you don't know what's going to happen with that. Ada's for sure making this shit goes nowhere.
I don't think she's down for Wesker's whole destroying.
Don't threaten to tickle me. What the fuck?
How would she survive and make her back? RE4 is a fan favorite, mainly because the original was super campy and ridiculous compared to the more muted and mature remake. And while RE4 is one of the most well-known RE games, where the story takes us next is to a game that's quite the opposite, a side game in the franchise which helps us understand the sheer extent to which bioweapons would be used on a global scale.
How is the side? How do they have like satellites shooting laser freaking beams of bioweapon shit in a side game? Like what?
Around the early 2000s, a group of researchers were paid to develop a bioweapon using a virus codenamed Malakota found in certain local deep-sea fish.
Who comes up with these names?
Kermadec trench. Samples of the virus were collected and combined
fish
with the existing T-virus to create a marine virus of unspeakable destructive potential. It could destroy the world's oceanic ecosystem. But moving away from top-secret shit to stuff in the public eye, around this time we focus on a new city, an 11-year-long project to build the world's first fully solar-powered city off the Mediterranean coast. The city was concluded and named Terra Grigia, though it might as well have just been named Fruitiger Arrow the City.
I don't know that reference, I'm sorry. I would laugh.
An organization called Veltro, and the city was overrun by BOWs, despite the efforts of an anti-bioterrorism organization called the
Raccoon City incident?
Commission, or FBC. Unbeknownst to the public, the FBC secretly orchestrated the entire attack on Terra Grigia to use as a controlled experiment where they would test the recently created bioweapon, which we now call the T-Abyss virus, the same one codenamed Malakota that I just mentioned. The FBC, being a piece of shit organization, is important because in the game itself, you play as members of a different organization called the Bioterrorism Security Assessment Alliance, or BSAA. You are sent to investigate the FBC because they're really sus. You play as returning characters like Jill and Chris, and the new characters introduced in Revelations like Parker Luciani and Keith Lumley. The events of the game are convoluted as hell because it constantly switches characters and geographic locations, so allow me to save you the trouble by giving you the
Thank you.
Pair A, Jill and Parker, are sent to investigate a cruise ship suspected of belonging to Veltro. Pair B, Chris and this woman named Jessica, are sent to some snowy mountains in Europe to investigate an airstrip suspected of being taken over by Veltro.
That was Inzoy? I literally have this video has 6.5k views now. Interesting. I should probably recognize that because I did the gameology thing for Inzoy, but I don't know. I haven't played that game in forever. Sorry. I wanted to see what that video was like. You reminded me of something. Okay.
Snowy mountains in Europe to investigate an airstrip suspected of being taken over by Veltro. Pair A got false information that Pair B was on the ship, which is called the Queen Zenobia, by the way. And Pair A then gets captured by a mysterious soldier while aboard the ship. Pair B finds out and goes to save them, while Pair C, dipshits Keith and Quint, go to the mountains to get more info. Pair B gets to the ship, but finds out they're actually on a decoy, a second ship that's basically the same thing as the first ship, this one being called the Queen.
I'm getting whiplash.
All the while, it's revealed the leader of the FBC, the secretly evil organization, is this guy named Morgan Lansdale. But funny enough, Lansdale wasn't even the one orchestrating this confusing plot, because actually it's your own leader at the BSA who's dragging these different teams around to different places to confuse his own teams and himself, all so that he can actually confuse his true enemy, Lansdale. After all, to confuse your enemy, you must first confuse yourself. Also, there was allegedly a mole in the team, so he was trying to root that out as well. The game ends with
if I don't know what I'm doing, my enemy sure won't know what I'm doing. That's always the secret sauce.
Jill and Chris dive to a third ship, which is sunk deep in the ocean. Yes, there was a third Queen ship, this one being called
of course.
Queen Dido.
There's probably a fourth as well.
Hard drive in it with enough shit incriminating Lansdale to ruin Bro's entire existence. The hard drive contains the video evidence of Lansdale hiring Veltro to disperse the virus into Terra Grigia in the first place. So Bro gets locked up, the BSA basically becomes the new FBC and absorbs a lot of its resources, and all the good guys live happily ever after.
His hands are huge.
Also, this Ronald McDonald looking man is named
What the
Raymond.
fuck?
He's a very strange face.
Get a strange hair as well.
The story, we move right into the first CGI movie, Degeneration.
Sweet.
Later in the year, after the events of Revelations, still 2005, we're in an airport, catching up with Claire. After everything she went through in Code Veronica, she joined an organization called TerraSave, which has possibly the worst motto you could fathom for a human rights group.
Because tear doesn't have to end with a wrist.
What? Tear doesn't have to end with wrist is what?
Tear doesn't have to end with wrist? What the fuck?
After Umbrella was dissolved, a new
That's so
pharmaceutical company
bad.
called Will Pharma emerged and
Tear
basically
does
just
not have to
took their
end with
place. One of
wrist.
Will Pharma's scientists,
TerraSave.
an ex-Umbrella employee, Frederick Downing, was trying to sell viruses on the black market to foreign countries, and this was going to have major consequences. Anyway, Claire is just chilling in this airport when zombies suddenly come out of nowhere and a huge plane crashes into the
Sweet.
building. The airport is quarantined, and Leon shows up to rescue this fucking
Of course he
Senator
does.
Ron
What the
Davis,
hell
who's
is
one of
that,
the
Leon?
is quarantined, and Leon shows up
We got Leon from Timu
to
over
rescue
here.
this fuck-ass Senator Ron Davis, who's one of the few remaining survivors alongside Claire. Leon and the gang save the airport survivors, and Claire and Leon team up to investigate Will Pharma at one of their facilities. This guy named Curtis Miller, who doesn't work for Will Pharma, is trying to destroy the company because he wants to show the world how evil they are. He's actually mad-based and hates corruption, and is just trying to reveal the government's cover-up of Will Pharma's bioterrorism. However, his plans are foiled because Will Pharma uses Curtis as a scapegoat for the zombie plane incident. In an act of desperation to get his message out, he ends up injecting himself with the G virus, thinking the world would be like, yo, Will Pharma's evil. But Claire and Leon just kill him, so no revolution, I guess. Then the facility explodes, so original. This is original. Finally, Leon, Claire, and Curtis Miller's sister, who
We're
was
seeing a
also
theme
in this movie,
here.
helped to apprehend Frederick Downing for his evilness, and guess what? The cycle repeats. Another big bad organization called Tricell comes in and buys out Will Pharma, cleaning up the failed company's mess for Tricell's own future plans. Speaking of Tricell's future plans, that takes us right up to RE5. Do you remember the BSAA? Well, they're quick
Yes, I
to
do.
act following the events of Revelations, and they send out operatives all over the world to places suspected of creating bioweapons. In 2006, the year after Leon and Claire's fun little Will Pharma incident, Chris and Jill are tasked to head into our old friend Spencer E. Oswell's new and namely not blown up estate. But it turns out
Mr.
Albert
Oswell.
Wesker got there before them and actually killed the now old and decrepit Spencer, because why not? Jill tackles Wesker out a window.
One of the
and they're
coolest
both
fights ever.
presumed dead. 3 years later, in 2009, Chris is sent to the West African city of Kijuju. There have been reports or rumors of a virus in this region. He meets a fellow operative, Sheva Alomar there, a fellow BSAA member who's familiar with the area. Chris is feeling emotional about not having Jill as his partner, but Chris and Sheva get acquainted and start making progress. While searching the town, their butcher informant tells them to look for a man named Irving, who has info on a possible bioweapon called Ouroboros. The butcher helps the pair
Ouroboros.
gear up and
Spelled it
sends
wrong.
them on their way. This Ouroboros virus is different in how it affects zombie victims. The Ouroboros zombies are smarter, able to hold weapons, and they can force non-infected to eat their multivirus gummies or what.
Gross. What crazy screen to pause on? Why would they assume Wesker's dead if they know he's like survived explosions and they know he's like super powered mutant and shit like that? Like they saw him dodging this shit all willy nilly, no effects, giving bullets. He's a T virus infected. Like, come on, use some common sense here, mommy Sheva.
Whatever the fuck this thing is.
True.
Wait a second. That looks like the Las Plagas from RE4.
It
Since Sheva
does.
Continue on their way. Their butcher informant perishes. RIP.
It's almost like they're all viruses
occasional
or
aerial
something.
Backup as they continue on their mission. The duo finds many dead BSA
It's Las
soldiers
Plagas
on
is
their
like a
way
parasite.
as they slaughter the infected locals. Trapped in a motor vehicle ambush, it's not looking good for Chris and Sheva until the BSA Delta team saves their asses. The captain of said Delta team is Josh Stone, who actually trained Sheva when she first started in the BSAA. The Delta team split.
They didn't know he was infected since it was done in private. They had an entire fight with him where he like disappears and tanks bullets and like does like Neo dodges and shit. You know what I mean? Like At that point, you would know. Going up to like see him and whatnot, there's a few agents that did know. Once I see a guy teleport like that, I'm assuming he's just a magician.
But off from
He could survive. He could survive a fall like that.
Boros and Chris and Sheva proceed on to where Irving is suspected to be hiding. Once they get to him, he's unfortunately saved by a hooded crow lady. Some documents Chris finds reveal Irving is headed for an oil field.
I need to play RE5
again.
again.
Information, the two attempt to meet back up with Delta Team.
What's up, Carter?
That the squad has been wiped out by some huge trolls.
God of War?
Chris and Sheva then kill it before boating through the marshlands. The two stumble upon the tribal Nidipaya people we talked about way back in Chapter 1, and they don't look so good.
How could someone do this to them?
Whoa, wait, look, it's a Trilobite mask.
Wow, that's so cool.
No, you destroyed it. No.
I've never played RE5 with the multiplayer. It does seem fun.
In one of the tribal people's notes, we learn that they were given a virus from a man who came from the oil field, presumably Irving. The results were devastating, as the virus quickly infected basically all of them. Turns out the children all died from the virus, the men became mega angry, and the women became disoriented and idle. Right before Chris and Sheva reach the oil fields, they find an abandoned Tricell camp. Tricell is a company that provides funding for the BSAA, but behind the scenes, they were clearly one of the interested parties in the Las Plagas virus. They were doing experiments with it, creating multiple different types of the virus. Type 2 Las Plagas was able to turn hosts quicker than Type 1. Type 3 was a variant that made hosts stronger, and in some cases bigger. Type 3 was more marketable as they wanted to sell super soldiers, but its main issue was that it didn't always transform its host. For men, it had a 92% attachment rate, and for women and children, it was 0. Anyway, Chris and Sheva reach the oil plant, of course owned and operated by Tricell no less. Here, Irving escapes from them yet again. Josh appears because somehow he's still alive, even though his team was killed, and through teamwork, you're able to catch up to Irving, who's on his big old boat. Irving, in fear and desperation, decides to inject himself with some kind of Type 3 or 4 Plagas, and he's all like... Before Chris and Sheva execute Fish Irving, he tells them to go to a cave to find some answers. I guess he had a change of heart. Josh
like another Salazar. It's like a boat like Salazar. They're like, let's get a really small, weird guy to inject himself and become a crazy monster. Hey, it's
Before Chris and Sheva execute Fish Irving, he tells them to go to a cave
Bootleg
to find
Salazar.
some answers. I guess he had a
weird look. It looks exactly like
Chris and Sheva
Salazar.
off at the cave, and it's revealed that Albert Wesker has been pulling the strings with Tricell, and he has a girlfriend named Excella, who's in a position of power at Tricell. Also, the Crow Lady reports to Wesker, and you know what? There is something.
I wonder who the Crow Lady
could be. The Ouroboros virus is
be.
basically complete, so Wesker is about to do some irreversible humanity-destroying shit. The duo
the
find
new
a
term is
facility used by both
Choppelganger.
Tricell and Umbrella Corps, and find a huge room used to store human subjects in pods, with people taken from all over the world. Chris checks to see Jill's in a pod, but hers is empty. The two continue to chase after Wesker and Excella and find out that the hooded woman was none other than Jill herself. Everyone's by the way. Wesker play fights with Chris and Sheva before getting bored. Wesker and Excella leave after forcing Wesker's remote-controlled Jill to fight Chris and Sheva in his stead. Chris and Sheva rip the bug off Jill's chest, and Jill encourages the two to stop.
That
Wesker.
outfit's crazy.
Jill needs time to recover from her 3-year mind and body control, while the duo needs to save the world. So Chris and Sheva ditch Jill and board Wesker's big-ass cargo ship. Wesker then betrays and injects Excella, turning her into this big meat monster to slow Chris and Sheva down. The two of them kill her, and before facing Wesker, we learn an important piece of information. Since Wesker was initially injected with his progenitor virus, he has needed regular scheduled injections of limited funny virus liquid stuff in order to remain powerful but not out of control. Right before Chris and Sheva face him, Jill explains that by dosing Wesker with extra juice, they could make him unstable and he could actually be killed. Chris and Sheva inject him with the goof juice, and Wesker crashes out, hopping on a big old cargo plane to try and escape the determined BSAA agents. Chris and Sheva hop on too, at which point Wesker delivers some bad news.
I have Ouroboros. In less than 5 minutes, we'll reach the optimal altitude for missile deployment. Ouroboros will be released into the atmosphere, ensuring complete global saturation.
So anyway, the plane crashes in a volcano. Everyone miraculously survives, and Chris has a realistic demonstration of strength. What? Wesker falls in the lava, and Jill and Josh show up in a helicopter to save Chris and Sheva before the two of them shoot 2 well-placed rockets directly at Wesker's face, permanently ending Albert Wesker and stopping the world from being destroyed.
Yeah, that fight, I rewatched it a while ago. And I say while, it's probably been a couple months or so. But I forgot just kind of how poor the pacing of that fight is and how much Wesker should have won that. You watch some fights, you watch some scenes, some boss battles, whatever else, and you're kind of like, it seems like this guy's way stronger at all times other than this fight. I don't get how, I mean, yes, he's being very arrogant, but like, there's no way he should have ever lost that. And the things they had to do to make the conclusion end up as what it is, it just made no sense to me. So I'm really hoping they take the RE4 route. And although I really love the goofiness and the goof juiceness, the insanity of RE4 original, I did like the more serious tone for RE4 remake as well. I think they both fit well, but obviously the remake changed the lore up, made it a little more streamlined into what it should be going into Requiem and all that stuff. I hope 5 does the same thing. It kind of tones down the insanity of it, makes it a little more serious, and they give Wesker like a proper way to die. But although, like I said, at this point, I'm kind of curious how you can write that into existence. It seems a very difficult task. I would replay it just for the special weapons. I don't remember the special weapons of RE5. I remember the typewriter and stuff for the Killer 7 for RE4. I know I did infinite ammo RE5 shit all the time, but I don't remember the weapons. It was the machine gun, was it not? You get the big ass machine gun, like the what is that, the Gatling gun type deal. I remember playing it a shit ton and enjoying the hell out of it, but I don't remember it as much.
For now.
Boom! What a sick ending, though. Still fun. Like I said, bad but fun. Bad writing but fun. Not all bad things are bad overall. Just had to clarify that. I did love it. I loved RE5.
Is that they haven't finished off all of the Weskers. There's still another one that someone's gonna have to deal with, which we'll learn all about in the next game, Resident Evil Revelations 2.
What the fuck?
Revelations 2 is primarily set on Sign
Triple
Island,
barrel shotgun? I don't even remember that one.
USSR, so the residents, who aren't necessarily evil, are mostly of Russian descent. The island had a tapped-out coal mine, disheveled prison, communications tower, and a town that was struggling to make ends meet. That was until Alex Wesker entered the picture in the 1970s. Alex Wesker is the pseudo-sister to Albert Wesker, meaning they're not blood-related, but were both adopted into the Wesker
Another
project.
adopted.
She was super eugenics, and she was an Umbrella employee prior to the company's downfall. Alex was trying to find the perfect spot to set up a research facility for her own interests separate from Umbrella's, but using Umbrella funding. This was when she discovered the Sign Island and its people. She hired the natives to help aid in construction of her new laboratory, and in 1998, the Wesker candidates were injected with the prototype virus. While Albert was a success story, Alex was not. She developed an incurable illness from the virus and did not obtain superpowers like Albert. Before Umbrella's downfall, Alex was ordered to research stuff to make Spencer immortal, but she refused because she was getting really sick from her illness. So instead of doing what Spencer wanted her to do, which was to work on this other island, she put someone else in charge and dipped to her own Sign Island. This is when she went all in on the island with the intention of researching a strain of the T-virus, the T-Phobos virus. After Umbrella's downfall, Alex invested heavily in the natives, giving them more jobs. Many of them started to view her as a savior or god because of their growing economic island success. In 2008, under the guise of employment, she tricked the inhabitants into her facilities to test the T-Phobos virus on them. Over time, the number of villagers dwindled as infection and zombiness became rampant on the island. By 2010, an updated virus was in place that reduced the chance of killing the host and reduced the chance of immunity.
What the hell is that?
Subjects were failing. See, this virus
Some Silent Hill shit
that occur are activated by the biological fear response in the body. So when people got too scared, they would become mutants instead of being superhuman hosts. Alex needed more candidates for her research and was running out of time and options until she met Neil Fisher. Neil was the leader of TerraSave, but he secretly aligned with the beliefs of the now imprisoned Morgan Lansdale, who believed radical action had to happen to ensure the world's stability in the face of bioterrorism.
As they most believe.
Neil came to an agreement. He would supply her with test subjects from his own company in exchange for a sample of the Ouroboros virus. He wanted to use the sample to make a vaccine to make the Ouroboros virus useless on the black market. With all
TerraSave, because not every Terra has to end in an ist.
All that said, Neil Fisher hosted a party with TerraSave to assemble his part of the deal for Alex. Among the many guests of the TerraSave party were two protagonists of Revelation 2, Claire and her friend Moira Burton. The power was cut during the party and the attendees were drugged and kidnapped. Claire and Moira awaken on Sign Island, disoriented and in prison cells, wearing rusty little bracelets. The two leave their cells and embark on a mission for their escape, all while being taunted by Alex Wesker, who's watching their every move. They face many abominations as they make their way to a
Oh my
radio
god,
tower.
there was a
It's
whole
here
lot of
that
shit.
Moira sends out a distress signal calling for help.
And
Fortunately
then she
or
dies.
not, Claire and Moira aren't the only ones from TerraSave on the island. The two women find Gabe and Pedro, and they all team up to work towards their escape. Gabe attempts to fix a helicopter until the group is ambushed by infected, killing Pedro in the process and rendering Gabe missing. Claire and Moira are facing death when Neil appears and saves them. Claire and Moira didn't know he's a traitor though, so they're just relieved. The two get split up from Neil as they progress through the island, and then they find Natalia, this scared little girl. She's all alone, and she's wearing the same bracelet as them, only Natalia's is solid red. Moira is able to calmly convince Natalia to stay with them, but this doesn't last long because Gabe arrives in the helicopter he managed to get working. Alex Wesker blasts the helicopter, making Gabe panic, which activates his mutation, ending in him crashing the helicopter in a nearby building. Unbeknownst to the women, Neil shows up and grabs Natalia during the helicopter distraction.
So much
Moira
happening.
and Claire realize Natalia is missing, but they think they'll find her if they continue their search on the island for Alex Wesker, which is
I knew going into this 0 through 9 was going to be a lot of lore that I needed to try and soak in and understand it all. There is so much in these side games. I did not realize all the stuff out of the main numbered games gets so crazy. Like, holy shit, there's a lot. Now, I'm surprised this video is not even longer, in like 3 hours instead.
at this point is their only hope of escaping. As they search this big-ass building, they discover Neil
Terror
was a
save.
rat who basically used them as sacrifices. Alex then betrays Neil because why the fuck not? She doesn't have to uphold her side of the trade now, and she injects him with
So
the
many
Ouroboros
dames, that's my
sample.
issue.
This makes him a big old monster, and he attacks Moira and Claire. It is at
That boy
this
big.
point that a decision has to be made that dictates which ending of the game you get. See, Claire is pinned down by the Neil monster, and her gun lays on the ground just out of reach. Moira lays opposite Claire, with the gun just out of reach of her as well. In this final battle with the monster, you choose who uses the gun. Something to know about Moira is that in her childhood, she and her sister were playing with their father's gun
That's
when
sick.
Moira accidentally shot her sister. Her sister survived the incident, but Moira's relationship with her father and guns did not. Moira, this
Little
entire
trauma?
game, has adamantly refused to touch or use guns, sticking to flashlights and her trusty crowbar. If Claire uses the gun, the Neil monster dies, and we cut to Alex watching over them. She remarks that she has what she needs, and we pan to Natalia, who's hooked up to some machinery.
Don't tell me if the other, what's her name? I already forgot her name. If she uses the gun, then Claire gets shot, because that would be kind of like similar to the RE9 Leon dying scenario.
Two women continue up the building and get face to face with Alex. She lore dumps
It's another
everything we
multiplayer.
know, and then blasts her fucking brains out after setting the building up for self-destruction. Moira and Claire have to escape the crumbling building, but in the process,
Another
Moira gets
self-destructing
trapped
building.
under falling rubble and isn't able to get out. Claire has to abandon
My question is, why do they set it to like a specific amount of time that always lets them release? Like, why don't you just blow it up right then and there? If I'm going to shoot myself right after, I'm going to blow this place up right now.
Moira, and she dumps out of the building into the sea. Now,
Oh, that's
back
fine.
to the decision, right? If Moira uses the
Moira?
gun, she actually faces her
She's gonna
fear.
shoot
The same events occur,
Claire?
but trust that the difference between these two decisions will become clear later. Some time passes from the initial kidnapping, and we see Claire in a hospital being rushed down the hall.
Same shit
A
happens
man,
then.
Barry Burton, is with her, demanding
Barry!
to know where his daughter is, Moira. If you haven't connected the dots yet, Barry Burton is the same guy from Resident Evil 1. Crazy. Claire's all like, she's gone. But Barry isn't having any of it. The guy spends the next 6 months acquiring supplies and information until finally he parks his boat at Sign Island. He was able to find the island through that radio signal message that Moira had sent right after they had escaped the prison initially. Shortly after his arrival, he meets Natalia, and the two embark on a journey following Moira's footsteps. Natalia is low-key lobotomized and doesn't remember Moira and Claire until they get to the radio tower and she hears Moira's broadcast.
Oh, I'm sorry. That trigger's getting pulled instantly. I would think it's the Grudge coming to get me. Dressed like that, sneaking up on me like that, on an island where I don't know shit's going on. I know people are dying. I'm pulling that trigger. I'm not on purpose, out of pure fear and shitting myself.
He panics and tells Barry that
Are you-
Moira is dead, but the father says no and keeps looking for his baby gal. Onwards they go, defeating mutant Gabe and other creatures. They enter the now crumbled big building, and inside the building they find mutant Alex, who says some creepy shit about how everyone's dead and buried except for one.
Never
A flock
trust
of
the girls in white, I'm
monsters surround
saying.
Barry and Natalia, but they manage to escape Alex and her goons. Barry and Natalia continue to traverse the island.
She got that
now
jacket
attempting
on
to
now.
escape Alex and goons, while still maybe in search of Moira's remains. They eventually make make their way into an underground laboratory where they face Alex yet again. And when you think you might kill her and the end is in sight, mutant Alex grabs hold of Natalia. Natalia was chosen by Alex long ago to be the body and new host for Alex's mind. Experiments have been underway to upload Alex's memories into the little girl. It helps also that Natalia's body is free from the illness and mutations that Alex's body has experienced over so many years. Also, Natalia's mind was strong enough to be the new host for Alex. However, at this point, Alex is so twisted with her mutated brain that she hates Natalia and thinks that she's not the true Alex and is a fake. So mutant Alex wants Natalia dead. This is where the decision from earlier comes into play. If Claire used the gun to kill Neil, then your ending is this. Natalia is crushed by mutant Alex, and she appears to be dead until Natalia wakes up with red mutant eyes. Natalia breaks Alex's arm off and rips her heart out from her chest.
And eats it.
Alex
Eat the heart.
Dead. And Barry's all like, Natalia? The girl laughs, tells him to call her Alex, and Barry threatens to kill Natalia, but is incapable. She then just walks off, laughing to herself.
I knew it. My instinct to shoot the small child wearing white with a really creepy braid thing would have saved the world. Ah, yes. Bully the small children next time in your story. Do it for the greater good.
In case it wasn't obvious, that is the bad ending. Luckily, there's another ending. If Moira was the one to gun down Neil, then your ending is this. Natalia is being crushed, but suddenly, mutant Alex is shot ruthlessly until Natalia is free from her clutches. Natalia and Barry are stunned and look to see Moira.
Yep.
She's alive and brave enough to wield a gun now. She's also rocking a red bracelet, so it's safe to say that she's mutated and is superhuman in some capacity. The three run from mutant Alex as the bullets only stunned her temporarily. The group then run outside to the cliff's edge when a helicopter appears with a sniper wielding Claire. Natalia and Moira climb in the chopper while Barry fights on the ground with mutant Alex. The battle ends with Claire shooting a rocket into the monster's face. A fitting end for a Wesker. The gang leaves the island and Barry adopts Natalia into the Burton family. There is one final cutscene that shows Natalia talking to herself that kind of, implies that Natalia has split personalities and Alex is somewhere in there. Will the consequences of this ever show up later in the franchise? Who knows? But playing through Revelations 2 was some of the most fun I've had.
The game looks good.
Resident Evil game. I think the writers and game developers really hit their stride with this one. But when you look back at some of their other content, namely what comes next in chronological order in the whole Resident Evil story, it's quite a lot more sloppy.
The game looks good though, for being so, I won't say old, but older. The Chicago sunroof.
My honest opinion, the later Resident Evil movies, as well as RE6, which all came out around 2012, give or take a few years, had a distinct level of tackiness to
W
their stories.
squid.
As the writers were trying to figure
Why
out
does
how to
Leon
make
look
things
like
bigger
that?
and better, they failed to ask the question of whether any of their ideas to do so were going to be genuinely interesting developments for the franchise. I'm going to give you a brief idea of Damnation, RE6, Vendetta, and the surprisingly recently released Death Island, which were all so focused on patting themselves on the back for their established characters, they just got a bit lost in the sauce with the repetitious stuff they continued to put them through. A lot of which being pretty divorced from the original plot involving Miranda, Spencer, Umbrella, and so on. In contrast, the recent Resident Evil 9 Requiem does an amazing job at storytelling that it makes these more questionable areas of the franchise really stand out. With that said, I'm going to move through these in as straightforward a way as I can to keep you from bleeding out of every orifice by the sheer density of information. Damnation is a movie set in a fictional Slavic nation.
I will say, Resident Evil Requiem still had some crazy moments as well. Like, Leon's riding up buildings on a motorcycle, going crazy, chasing Gideon, who just happened to be waiting with a motorcycle and an RPG. And those are like the fun moments of the game and whatnot. But they're not so important to the story that it really throws off everything else and how shit got from point A to point B. Like, whether or not that chase really happens is not really a big deal. So they were still able to keep, I think by keeping the crazier parts out of the story, out of like the main focus of what's canon, it makes it easier for adaptations in the future, maybe of other movies. No, with 25 bits, my goat loves motorcycles. Damn right he does. I think by keeping those pieces out of the main line of the story or the storytelling in and of itself, the adaptations or like the future storytelling can be easier to just be, well, not only be accessed, but also kind of just, what is the word I'm looking for? Yeah, you could cut out, yeah, exactly. You could cut out the bike chase and it basically changes nothing. Exactly. And I think with like RE6 and like all this other crazy stuff that they had going, there was so much wild shit that was like important parts of the story. And you could not remove them. They had to be there. Lots of explosions, buildings going crazy, whole bombs of bioweapon gas being dropped on cities. Like, it was just, how insane can we go? It literally became the Fast and the Furious of zombie movies. And so they kind of fell away from what I originally fell in love with, which was the Umbrella bioweapon development, science shit, all that other stuff. So yeah, wasn't RE6 in China? RE6 was across the world, like everywhere. It was in the Arctic, it was in the ocean, it was in caves under Asia, it was in China, it was everywhere. RE6 was chaos incarnate of a Resident Evil game.
Mostly centering around Leon in the year 2011. We get some lore exposition about the collapse of the Soviet Union and a fictional country called the Eastern Slav Republic declaring their independence. Unfortunately, oligarchs came to power and there was a massive divide between the wealthy and poor, which resulted in a brutal civil war. Eventually, the first ever female president of the ESR granted a ceasefire between the two. That was until she found out that there was some oil beneath the rebel-held land.
It's always oil, baby.
Ignited the conflict in the name of
drill
terrorism. In February of 2011, there were rumors
not all terror has to end with ism.
That monsters had joined the fight, so Leon was dispatched to investigate if BOWs were being used in the conflict. Throughout the film, Leon tries to stop both sides from fighting, but sides with the rebels. The rebels utilize the Las Plagas virus, which gets basically all of them killed by the end, except for this one guy named Buddy. The ESR, on the other hand, uses tyrants, leading to this scene.
Come on, don't be shy.
The movie ends when Leon helps.
Whoa, what? It's just smacking Tyrant with the
The U.S. and Russia calm the
doesn't
civil
have to
war,
end
and
with
the
his
ESR president lady resigns. GG. A year later, in 2012, this is when
Timu Leon once again.
and
True.
Holy mother of God, is this story complex? The game follows.
Usually, you gotta pay to get that angle. You now have another top tier thing you've added to my chat. Thank you for that, Squidlet. W lead mod.
4 campaigns explaining the events that happened over the course of 6 months from December 2012 to the summer of 2013. You play as Chris, Leon, and Ada, as well as a new character to the franchise, Jake Muller, who was later revealed to be Albert Wesker's son. Also, characters like Sherry Birkin make a return, all grown up. Overall, the characters in this game go through endless misery while they try to stop this group called Neo Umbrella. Leon has to kill the zombified president of the United States.
Play it again. I was walking my snow. Hold on. My 1:14:34.
Come on, don't be shy.
Just fucking.
The movie ends when we stop this group called Neo Umbrella. Leon has to kill the zombified president of the United States. Ada has to navigate the fact that a clone of her was running around doing evil shit. Jake has to come to terms with the fact that he's Wesker's son. And Chris has to make no fucking sense as a character. I say this because he becomes absolutely enraged for most of the game after clone Ada kills his squad mates, but then after Leon gives him a pep talk, he completely 180s and is suddenly no longer mad. Probably he was able to calm down just at the thought of Leon fucking his sister. All in all, the bad
Jesus
guy died, and the only real
Christ.
consequence of 6 is
Oh
that it
my
leads into
God.
Vendetta, the next CGI movie. In 2014, former CIA operative dude Glenn Arias decides to become a weapons dealer. Also, he looks like Jeffrey Epstein. He does some evil shit, but Becca and
Jesus.
Chris want Leon to help them stop Epstein. I mean, Glenn, so they go find Leon in a bar. But bro is so
Oh my
done
God.
with everything.
I'm sorry to interrupt your vacation, but we really need to talk. Do you really need to fuck Chris's sister, Claire?
What the fuck is that? What is that? This video is just adding in random shit that is, it's catching me off guard. Okay, hold on. Oh, okay, hold on. Maybe I misheard that. Maybe I.
But bro is so done with everything.
I'm sorry to interrupt your vacation, but we really need to talk. Do you really need to fuck Chris's sister, Claire?
It's what the.
Fuck my sister.
Eventually, Leon.
Fuck, I'm easily amused, Chad. I'm easily amused. I'm gonna back up. It's on a YouTube video. What is on the screen?
Sister Claire.
The fuck? This is the funniest shit ever. Oh my god. Did it has to count? I would count it. Oh my! I was like, okay, it's in a YouTube video. It can't be that bad. So I had to back up. I had to see what was going.
Really need you to fuck my sister.
Eventually, Leon agrees to help them. Glenn launches a bioweapon attack on the city he's residing in, but the trio kill Glenn and release the vaccine into the city, and all the infected are saved in the end. The only issue with the ending is that Arias' bodyguard's daughter, named Maria, is still alive.
Sick
and
outfit.
She wants revenge real bad since Chris and Leon helped kill her father. This leads us into the last CGI movie, known as Death Island. It takes place in 2015, mostly in San Francisco and the nearby Alcatraz Island. All you really need to know is that it's the first movie where Chris, Jill, Claire, Rebecca, and Leon all hang out in real time. Though unsurprisingly, under the circumstances of having to defeat a supervillain named Dylan Blake. Basically, bro wanted to have the ability to pick and choose who he infected and turned into zombies. He did this utilizing these tiny mosquito drones that could infect people with ease. He mostly just wanted to infect the big bad governments, which is honestly
times to be infected.
But then his villain monologue just starts to make no sense, and he likes to hit this cane on the ground because it like reminds him of this time when he had to like bash his friend's brains in Raccoon City because like there were zombies and his friend was going to turn into a zombie. And yeah, anyway, so he feeds himself to a zombie shark. This way he's able to become the zombie shark, kind of. And yeah, I'm about as lost as you are. Our heroes
that shit looks pretty crazy though,
and they all come out unscathed. Except for Leon. The guy was fighting Maria and got his head smashed into a metal railing so hard that it bent the metal. In response to this, Leon punched her across the room, killing her on a metal spike. I think at this point we have to acknowledge that Leon is not a human.
He's superhuman.
At last,
I no joke. After watching how crazy he did shit in RE6, I thought for a second that maybe he was infected a while back and he like assimilated with it almost in a Wesker way. I thought that'd be pretty cool to canon. Same thing with Chris. Like, these people are around these viruses so much. I thought it would be cool, or I thought it would be the case that Leon, Chris, they've all shown feats of superhuman strength, speed, agility, whatever it is you want to talk about, reaction time, all of it. And so I really thought it was going to go down the route of like, hey, these people just magically got infected. And it'd be one of those things where people would probably bring up like, oh, how convenient. The main character gets infected and they just get superhuman strength from it. They don't transform all weird. They become like Wesker. But it's like they're the main character because of that. We're following their story specifically in a fictional area because of that, not in light of it. You know what I mean? It's not like they just happen to have stumble across that or whatever else. I'm yapping now, but still, I thought they were all superhuman from the get-go. So it's weird to me they're just kind of not. Captain America's, yeah, I mean, even if it was just like a small iteration of the T-Virus, that didn't make them quite Wesker level, but made them somewhat powerful.
We can finally get into the really interesting lore. We're so close to RE9, I can taste it. Okay, so do you remember Alyssa Ashcroft, the reporter we talked about at the start of the video? Well, for decades after the Raccoon City incident, the determined journalist would try to alert the world to what Umbrella and other corrupt corporations had done, with little effectiveness since there were so many cover-ups. While she continued her reporting career, Alyssa also raised a daughter named Grace, who, surprise, surprise, we play as in the latest game. Tragically, in 2018, Alyssa was investigating a place called Wrenwood Hotel, where she was murdered in front of Grace while trying to find answers on a secret US government project called Elpis. The murder of Alyssa directly influenced her daughter Grace to pursue a career as an FBI technical analyst. The biggest question for RE9 is, does she succeed? Before we get to 9 though, we do have to talk about the two games which up until the release of 9 have been the latest in the franchise, most notorious for having switched up the formula for better and for worse. Kinda depends how you see it. But however you feel about the two games, they ushered in a new era for Resident Evil. So without further ado, let's explore Resident Evil 7 and 8 through the story
Murder was
of
a soft word for it.
Ethan Winters.
Yeah, the one thing that always bugs me, shout out Ethan Winters, the one thing that always bugs me with the RE9 intro is how they downplayed the hell out of Grace watching her mother die in front of her. I know it's been a while and your mother died there. No, it's really not been too long at all, and she had her neck chopped into with a machete by a mutated evil genius. Like, what? That's not normal shit. That's crazy shit. You don't just get over that and just go back to that place alone, might I add you. RE9 loved it. There are some really dumb writing parts of it though, like specifically the beginning, but it leads into a great game and a fun game and one of my favorite Resident Evil so far. So it's, amazing. Yeah, like stop having a panic attack, you weakling. There's work to do. Exactly. I pay you. Get over it. Winter's Evil evolves. Resident Evil.
RE7 introduces us to a new organization that has actually been in the shadows doing shit for a long time, likely as far back as the 1950s. This group is called the Connections. See, a while back, after our boy Oswell E. Spencer moved on from working with Miranda, the Connections found the woman. In exchange for samples of her mold thing, they'd help her research it and speed up progress towards basically doing what she wanted to do, to make a host for her daughter, Eva. In their research, the Connections made different types of viruses stemming from the mold, with their own goal being to make a host that could mind control those it infected. Clearly not very original, because bro, I swear this is the idea of so many viruses in this franchise. Anyway, they make the D-type virus, but after 8 failed experiments utilizing little lab-grown girls who died either on their own or just by being terminated by the company, eventually they moved on to the E-type.
I still remember the noise
girl
of that.
They named Evelyn. Evelyn would come to be fond of one of the researchers, a woman named Mia Winters. In October of 2014, Evelyn and the Connections researchers are on a boat called the Annabelle. The boat was caught in a bad hurricane, and Evelyn takes over the boat, spreading the mold throughout. She also kills everyone except for Mia, because Mia fulfilled the role of a mother. Evelyn liked having a mother. During the storm, the Annabelle gets beached in Dulvey, Louisiana, while sailing near the Gulf of Mexico. Local swamp man Jack Baker rescues Mia and Evelyn and takes them to his house.
This is going to start getting into DLC of 7 and 8 that we have not played yet. I kept saying I was going to play it for quite some time. Kept forgetting, started putting things differently on my schedule. Blah, blah, blah. We're going to learn about the lore, obviously, but we'll play these later on as well. So we'll actually get to experience it firsthand.
Evelyn takes over the Baker's household by spreading the mold, and she kind of just mind controls everyone, creating a living hell for them. Eventually, the Connections finally figure out where Evelyn was, and they set up a laboratory in the nearby salt mines with the help of Lucas Baker, who they contact after Evelyn and the mold took over the family property.
I got some for you. Look what I've got.
These edits are comical.
You know what this is for?
They're able to convince
that had to take so much time.
Family, and the organization promised him suppressants for the mold virus that was in his system. But see, Lucas was really fucking twisted and killed everyone who was in the lab set up by the Connections. He then continued to send emails and messages back to the rest of the organization, pretending like everything was fine. Over the next few years, Evelyn lured people to come to the property because she wanted to collect them like Pokemon cards so she could have one big family. Most of these people just didn't cut it though and were simply killed. But in 2017, there was one visitor who was going to cause her some troubles. You remember Mia Winters, the researcher who worked
Ethan action?
Well, back in the day, she had lied to her husband Ethan about what it was she did for work. After she went missing in 2014, Ethan was distraught since the only info he had on her disappearance was from a video recording she sent telling him to stay away. She recorded this back on the Annabelle. It had to have been awful for Ethan, getting a message like that from his wife when he only had a vague idea of what she did for work and having no real leads on where she could be. But
I'm also mad about that because in the original clip that you get, they make it seem like she's in a rush to die. Well, not rush, but she's in a rush because she's going to die or she's being tracked or whatever. She has so much free time. Unbelievable amounts of free time. She could have taken like 3 college courses, got a degree, walked her dog. She could have told an entire story and 2 times over if she wanted to.
In 2017,
gave all the
Ethan
details.
Gets a call from Mia, who's being controlled by Evelyn at the time. In the call, she tells Ethan to come to the Baker family property. Ethan gets there, and long story short, he finds Mia. She switches between being Evelyn controlled and being herself.
L-wife.
Jack Baker shows up and stomps Ethan's head in. Ethan
L-dad.
dies. The end. Just kidding, the mold revives Ethan, but you don't even know this shit until the end of 8. Mold Revive Ethan progresses through the game, slaughtering the family members that just keep coming back to life.
As he should.
Also, since he is a mold man now, he can reattach his limbs with this funny heal juice. Eventually, Lucas Baker's sister,
Little goof
Zoe,
juice?
is able to contact Ethan and gives him tips on how to survive. This leads to Ethan finding 2 samples of the failed D-type experiments, which he gives to Zoe so she can make a vaccine against Evelyn. Ethan uses one of the vaccines on Jack Baker, which, by the way, doesn't fucking do anything because he's still alive in the mold form in the DLC. But anyway, then with 1 vaccine left, Ethan uses it on Mia instead of Zoe. Don't worry, in the DLC, her Giga Jet uncle saves her, so she ends up fine anyway. While Mia and Ethan are trying to escape, they run into the beached Annabelle and they get ambushed by Evelyn. Mia finds a tissue sample of Evelyn on the ship, and then Mia saves Ethan from the mold in the boiler
now
room,
W1. Yo, thank you, Eddie. I appreciate that.
Evelyn in the process. Ethan then goes to the Connections out.
When he gets stomped out, he dies. Yeah. So he dies. They explain this in 8. Whenever you die again, and the reason that you're able to come back and all that stuff, and that's why when he keeps the same thing he's talking about here, he just explained it, but all the medical juice and whatnot heals all the stab wounds, all the crazy shit. He can survive that specifically because he dies like at the very beginning of 7. and then he's just mold. He just heals how mold would, and he can do all this superhuman shit and whatever else. He's just the GOAT. He was dead doing all this stuff. It's crazy. It's great. I think it's a fun story. RE7, RE8, I love, absolutely.
Post in the salt mine to make a neurotoxin with the sample, which can kill Evelyn. Back at the Baker house, you find out that this old grandma that's been present in the game was Evelyn the whole time. Ethan stabs her with the thing. She goes big mode.
Grandma
Ethan almost dies, but Chris Redfield shows up and tosses Ethan a mega cool bioweapon gun that one-shots her. In the end, Ethan and Mia make it out alive and
What happens
go
if you
on to
miss
have
that? You just
mildly
die, I
normal
guess.
lives. For a little bit. Meanwhile, Chris goes into the Connections lab to go kill Lucas. He succeeds. It's around this time that Chris
shit.
eventually comes to distrust the BSAA, though, because they cover up the whole Baker incident entirely.
Okay, I guess I always wondered where Lucas went. So you get to see about that in the DLC. And then on top of the Ethan's daughter thing, I forgot her name already.
Because of this, Chris forms his own independent Hound Wolf Squad after 2018.
Sick logo,
which is
dude.
relevant in the next game, Resident Evil Village. Also, if you thought Ethan's story was over, well, it's not. A few years later, and it is 2020.
Village of Shadows.
To nobody's surprise, Ethan is having a pretty hard time forgetting about what happened in Louisiana. He's now living with his wife Mia and their daughter Rose.
Shadows
but when
of
Ethan
Rose.
brings up his troubles, Mia becomes really frustrated before Chris just breaks in like Mr. Kool-Aid and mag dumps her.
Hell yeah.
What? Why?
Chris and his men.
I think I'm also mad about that because they had a weapon that they used on. I keep saying I'm mad about this. I'm not actually mad about it, but I get curious about these things. They had a weapon that they used on. Oh my God, I'm not doing good with names. Old grandma. They had a weapon they used on grandma that they show at the end of RE7. Why not have that for Miranda, who you know is a bad bitch? Like, come with all the shit you got. Go all out. Don't half-ass nothing. All right?
Kidnap
Full
Ethan
ass
and Rose,
everything.
referring them as important assets. Sometime later, Ethan ends up in a village after the van he was being transported in was attacked. See, the van was attacked by Mother Miranda, and this is the same village where she's been chilling for like a century. When Ethan wakes up, Rose is gone, and this is because your baby girl was Mother Miranda's primary target. At some point while heading through the village, Ethan meets a descendant of one of the 4 lords in the area, this guy named Heisenberg.
Daddy
Instead
Heisenberg.
of cooking meth, he bends metal. Heisenberg kidnaps Ethan and brings him to meet the other lords, including the person behind it all, Mother Miranda.
Goat.
It's here where Ethan is sent through the many domains of the different lords, collecting different parts of Rose, because this merchant duke guy told Ethan that if he wants his daughter back, he's gonna have to get all the pieces. They come in the form of these specimen sample bottles with a label on it corresponding to each piece. And yes, if this sounds really messed up, it is. Basically what Miranda did was after capturing Rose, she took the little baby to a ritual site, crystallized her, and then chopped her newly crystallized baby into 4 pieces. She split up the pieces among her 4 lords, who she trusted to protect said fragments. At the same time, Miranda wanted the 4 lords dealt with so they were out of her way and couldn't mess with her mission.
Ew!
Hence why she let Ethan live initially and would observe how he dealt with them. She really just wanted Ethan to fight the lords for her, and even disguised herself as an old hag to keep feeding him lore to do just
Grandma?
that. Naturally, to get all of Rose's pieces, Ethan has to kill the 4 lords. He kills the first 3, those being Alcina Dimitrescu, Donna Beneviento, and Salvatore Mori.
That's fucking vile. Very good at catching me off guard. It's a fire
According to the
video.
final piece
Fire
of
video.
Heisenberg, the guy actually attempts to reason with us, letting us know how strong Rose actually is and how he wants to use her to destroy Mother Miranda. But Ethan doesn't want to use his daughter as a weapon, so as a result of not cooperating, Heisenberg tries to kill him again. Once Ethan runs into Chris, the BSAA operative gone rogue explains to Ethan that he didn't actually kill Mia back at Ethan's house. That was Mother Miranda disguised as Mia, and the reason Chris kidnapped Rose and Ethan afterwards is because he thought that Miranda might have already infected them. After this lore drop, Ethan defeats Heisenberg with the assistance
Why
of
wouldn't you
Chris's
take
engineering
Ethan as
skills,
well?
And that's when Mother Miranda finally shows herself. She tells Ethan that Rose is Evelyn's complete form, and that she will be reborn as her own daughter, Eva. And she
Evelyn.
rips out Ethan's heart. With Ethan dead, the game switches over to Chris's POV, where he's preparing to raid the village with his men. Fighting through the lichens, Chris finds the Megamycete and straps an explosive to it strong enough to level the entire village, but before he triggers it, he wants to finish off Mother Miranda. While on the way to her, he finds the real Mia in Miranda's lab, and they have a chat about what's been happening. Chris tells her that Ethan is unfortunately dead, but she responds, telling him that Ethan is probably fine because he's special. Turns out Mia knew about Ethan's mold revival thing, which is crazy because that means she let a mold revived man nut in her. We switch back over to Ethan.
I thought the same thing immediately. She was just fucking a dead dude. And I don't know if that's also necrophilia, but it feels wrong.
Ethan's POV and find he's experiencing some kind of dream sequence, speaking to Evelyn. She reveals the truth about how Ethan was murdered by Jack.
You died that day.
Despite all of this,
Bitch.
it doesn't faze Ethan nearly as much as he thinks.
I'll drop
He
kick
wants to
that
save
child.
His daughter in the end.
In
Waking up in
self-defense.
the Duke's carriage, Ethan requests to be taken directly to Mother Miranda so he can finally finish this.
I want to know, so that's a big ass baby. I want to know so much more about the Duke. That guy is so interesting to me. There's so many questions I have. How he gets places, teleports, where his powers are from. Is he infected? Is he human? What? So much stuff.
Feeding Mother Miranda,
Big ol'
and
baby.
taking his daughter back.
Yeah.
Ethan meets Chris one last time. Ethan takes Chris's detonator
W
and hands
father.
over his daughter, choosing to stay behind, sacrificing himself in the process.
W
Mia breaks
father.
down after hearing the terrible news from Chris, and they finally escape the village. If you thought the game ended there, well, you'd be mistaken, because after the credits,
DLC!
we see teenage Rose visiting Ethan's grave, where she seems to be getting followed and protected by some of Chris's men. And this is where the DLC comes in. We time skip all the way to 2037.
God!
Yeah, 16 fucking years after everything that just happened with Ethan in the village and all that. We follow Rose as she has a conversation with one of Chris's Wolf Squad members, Charlie Graham. But see, this wasn't actually him. At some point, the Wolf Squad had acquired a piece of fungal root from Miranda's megamycete and put it in a jar. Within this root, Miranda's consciousness somehow survived for all those 16 years. When Rose meets with Charlie Graham, she's actually just hallucinating. Because this guy, along with others in Chris's squad, had basically raised Rose, she considered Charlie a friend. Miranda used this to have his hallucination offer Rose an opportunity, one which could remove her powers. Rose jumped at this idea because she blamed her powers for how hard her life was.
It's a
being
lie.
Ostracized and bullied by other kids her age as she was growing up. So she goes to the lab where the root is and enters a hallucinatory realm that Miranda and the mold seem to have created. Inside this weird hallucination world, Rose is accompanied by some kind of mysterious helper that communicates with her via writing. She gives it a name,
Is it
Michael.
Ethan?
She's told to find a purifying crystal. That's like her whole goal in this fake world. Rose pushes forward, finding Dan Schneider and witnessing a bunch of versions of herself getting brutally killed. Eventually, Rose is transported to a room that feels familiar to her. She finds a letter that was seemingly written by her dad, Ethan, but then Evelyn appears and drags her to yet another world.
I
Evelyn
hate
is
Evelyn
jealous of
so
Rose
much.
and tries to kill her. But Rose is like, nah, fuck you, and puts the little shit in her place. In the third final layer to the hallucinatory world, Rose finds the crystal, but then Mother Miranda appears and she's like, yes, I tricked you into all this. Charlie wasn't even there, and now I'm gonna make you my vessel for Eva. And just in the nick of time, before she can grab Rose, Ethan appears.
Yep,
He was the mysterious entity.
that was pretty obvious.
Ethan and Rose try and escape, but ultimately they can't, and Ethan's power is absorbed into Rose, which she uses to obliterate Miranda, killing the one who started it all.
We went from Resident Evil to some JJK shit. You got superpowers to take down curses and stuff. What the
Ethan
hell?
and Rose then have one final conversation before the world disintegrates.
You're so grown up now. And even though I wasn't there with you, I've always watched over you. I'm so very proud of you.
I love you too, Dad.
Rose wakes up from her trance,
That's
and in her
sad.
hand, she realizes she's holding her dad's wedding ring. Rose goes to visit Ethan's grave on his birthday. Then she gets picked up by an agent
Mother
driven
mold.
off in an SUV. And with that, we conclude Resident Evil 7 and 8, which happen to be actually really important to our next and final chapter, the one that many of you have probably been waiting for, Requiem.
Let's go! Woo, 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 woo. All right, so we do have to do those DLCs. We have the domain expansion Mother Mold or Permanent Winter. Ooh, Winters. Oh, Winters. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. But we got to go through those. I don't know how long they are, but I would like to squeeze them in. Maybe we do it after the lore video, whatever the heck else. But I would also actually like to go through and do the hardest difficulty for the game modes as well. A little challenging, little challenges of Village of Shadows, which I believe is insane because of the lichens and whatnot. But I need to make a big list of all the little things in Resident Evil I need to go do. Side games and all. We'll see one day. Right now, it's Requiem time. Just tried Insanity mode. Got my ass kicked, but it was fun. My favorite Resident Evil game. My favorite.
To preface the events of the game itself, most of which happen in 2026 and show the perspectives of Grace Ashcroft and Leon Kennedy, allow me to set up some key pieces of information that are huge lore reveals for the franchise. This stuff was revealed for the first time in 9 and has repercussions that go back many decades before the fall of Umbrella. By now, we've established Spencer's obsession with immortality,
Oswald!
to the many projects that happen across the world. Like so many of his other attempts at extending his life or creating a fountain of youth, his final project that was attempted pretending to do this seemed to change something in him. Spencer was getting old by 1998. Whether from his mind decaying or not, Spencer had a bizarre change in heart. He genuinely gave up on trying to find the answer to immortality, accepting that he was going to die soon. At the same time, he adopted a baby girl named Grace. But before Spencer died, he finished one last project. This project he was able to keep mysterious because he never revealed to anyone its true purpose. The project was called Elpis. He misdirected its purpose as being related to mind controlling, selling the lie that Elpis was a bioweapon that could upset military balance on a global scale and could be used to control others. But its
not a lie.
Purpose was something only Spencer knew. One
it
of the
was
huge
true.
lore drops we got in Requiem is that the missile that took out Raccoon City was actually orchestrated by the Connections. In collaboration with the US government, the Connections would pin the blame for the nuclear disaster on Spencer, causing the bloated company that Umbrella had become to fall apart. From there, they could absorb Umbrella's assets. But what is Elpis? Why did Spencer care so much about it? And what do we find out about the Connections? The answers to those questions and so many more is what we're going to discover by the end of 9. So strap in. Enter Grace Ashcroft, an FBI analyst and adopted daughter of Alyssa Ashcroft, though I don't think she knows that she's adopted. It's October of 2026, and she's reading an article about how Raccoon City is having an extended lockdown.
She looks exactly like her mom,
also,
so...
the U.S. is 100% confirmed to be trading with bioweapons along with other nations. This is going to be important later. Grace's boss grabs her, and he's like, yo, I need you to go to the Renwood Hotel where your mom fucking died in front of you. Grace is like, okay. So she goes to Renwood, a town right outside Raccoon City, by the way, and gets to the hotel where she finds some creepy shit, including a bunch of pictures of her. Then she finds this guy named Victor Gideon, who sounds suspiciously like Heath Ledger's Joker.
It hasn't been easy.
He's also fucking huge. He grabs Grace and
he is taller than
then
shit.
We get the introduction to our other player.
I didn't really notice till he was next to
Bro's
Leon.
Looking old. He's 49 and hotter than he's ever been. After he moved agencies, Leon at this point works
important
for
to the lore
Division of Security Operations, or the DSO, run by the U.S. government, of course. Alongside Leon, we have returning character Sherry Birkin, who we last saw in RE6. Both her and Leon are revealed to be suffering from the effects of the T-virus, which might be confusing, so allow me to explain. Basically, 10% of the population was immune to the T-virus exposure that swept over Raccoon City back in the day. It just so happened that people like Leon, Sherry, and Jill were in that 10%, which is why they were able to get bit without actually turning into zombies themselves. Clearly, though, after decades following the exposure, some of their bodies were coming to feel the effects. Throughout Requiem, Leon's infection gets worse and is a driving force for you to push forward in the hopes that you can cure it and save his life. While Leon is driving through Renwood, investigating Victor Gideon, he happens to spot the guy casually carrying Grace Ashcroft over his shoulder on the sidewalk. Leon then gives chase. Victor slows him down by infecting people in the streets, but that doesn't stop our boy.
He is so hot.
Leon then finds out Victor probably took Grace to the Rhodes Hill Chronic Care Center that he purchased decades prior. Naturally, Leon heads there to investigate. Grace regains consciousness and finds she is upside down with a needle in her arm. Ugh.
What a fun game.
Oh. Made that. Oh, smart. Bro, she is so much smarter than I am. I would not have been able to figure that shit out. From
She
here,
is
Grace
super
leaves the
smart.
room and explores her surroundings.
Oh my god. What the fuck?
While Grace is getting chased by this horrifying monster,
I think so. We talked about the Resident Evil movie coming out, and the perspective of that movie is supposed to be from somebody who is kind of in Grace's situation right now. Grace might be an FBI agent, but for the most part, she's pretty normal. She's an analyst. She doesn't do all this crazy shit. She doesn't go out and witness the monstrosities of bioweapons like this. So I think my favorite part about Resident Evil 9, I actually am looking forward to the movie because I think even if it maybe didn't feel super Resident Evil to me, this part normally wouldn't either. But being able to experience it from both the badass side of Leon, who's dealt with this shit before, no big deal, one-liners dropped here and there and everywhere, and then swap it back to the Whiplash back to Grace, and then her experiences of being hunted like this. I think it was such a fun game. I think this is like the perfect formula for a Resident Evil game. I don't think they can do it at all times, but it is definitely so fun, and I love this perspective of the terrifying side of what these viruses really have.
Leon shows up at the hospital and absolutely aura-farms everyone, waiting 3 business days while he stares at a zombie holding a chainsaw, which proceeds to obliterate this
Just
lady.
lets her
I don't
fucking
know why
die.
Leon let that happen. What the fuck? He fights through the hospital.
He just lets her
saving
die.
her from the freaky tall monster, which is known as the Girl. Then a gate falls
The
down
Girl.
and separates the two. Leon tosses his insanely OP gun, the Requiem, to Grace, and then he gets trapped with Victor, who proceeds to choke him out.
Taller
From there,
than
Grace
fuck.
has to fight her way through the hospital. Grace finds a little girl named Emily, who's blind, and together the two of them nearly escape the hospital in a helicopter, aided by this pilot named Harry, but the helicopter crashes and Harry gets impaled by a tree. Meanwhile, Gideon was feeling up Leon.
You are gonna be my Discord kin, Leon.
True.
And Leon escapes, then finding Grace running away from zombies with Emily. He assists her with a sniper rifle, and the two finally manage to meet up at last. But something is wrong. Emily is bleeding out from an injury she got in the helicopter crash. After having to finish off the hulking girl monster thing, Grace returns to Emily, but finds the little girl is dead. She tries to do chest compressions on her, but it doesn't work.
I'm sorry about your daughter. We'll give her 5 big booms.
boom, boom, boom.
Boom.
Suddenly, Emily revives and becomes a ghoulish abomination. Leon has to put her down. Grace is so distraught by everything that she leaves Leon behind and is approached by Gideon and a new character, Zeno. It's about now that I explain 2 important facts about Victor Gideon. First, he refers to Spencer as his master. He wishes to follow in his master's footsteps and see his goals to the end. Second, Gideon and Zeno work for the Connections.
Zeno's got
Same
so much
organization we talked
drip.
about back in RE7 and 8. For whatever reason, the Connections really want to release Elpis, Spencer's final project that he didn't want anyone to have. Zeno and Gideon ask Grace to come with them to the ruins of Raccoon City, and considering how done she is with everything by now, she just kinda agrees. Leon himself pursues Elpis further, which leads him to Raccoon City as well. Sherry tells him over comms that there's nothing on Elpis in the CIA or Pentagon databases, which is very suspicious, and continues to tell us that the US government is evil. This is further confirmed by Sherry requesting higher clearance, but being promptly told to shut down her investigations entirely. Leon shows up at Raccoon City, and at first it looks completely abandoned and untouched, as if nobody had been here for decades. We quickly learn, though, that this couldn't be further from the truth. Leon finds evidence of the BSAA having set up bases of operation,
Also
even
corrupt.
dropping supply-carrying cargo containers in the area. In video footage he recovers off of a BSAA corpse, we see that Zeno had killed this squad not long before. Also, there's a bunch of zombies here that look straight out of Mad Max. Leon finds a motorcycle in one of the BSAA cargo containers, and blowing open a gate, he's able to progress towards the central part of the city. Out of nowhere, bro is ambushed
Just
by Victor.
waiting
Gideon,
there
and
is
we
so
get this
funny.
Rather out of place motorcycle sequence, which felt a bit jank. They do a little motorcycle
It's so
joust,
funny,
and
though.
Gideon loses, falling off a highway and seemingly dying. But come on.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
know.
no, not.
He's
Leon makes it to
12
the
feet
center and
tall.
arrives at a place he's quite familiar with, the RPD. This is probably a much bigger deal for those of you who have been fans of the series for many years.
It's on you now.
So young, dude. It's crazy. What a sick game. I think the game does the nostalgia, like, it does some nostalgia farming, not gonna lie. Pretty well, though. It's actually able to fit into the story without making it so, like, hey, here's Raccoon City. Hey, here's the police department. Like, they tied it all very well. And I'm glad. I was a little scared when I realized we were going back, that they were just kind of like, throw it in your face fan service type bullshit nostalgia, where it just doesn't have a place really, but it flowed very well. I didn't feel like it was super jarring with anything at all.
But for me, I was just born, okay? This part is actually really sentimental. Leon has some flashbacks, and we see a message the cops wrote about how they need to give young Leon a warm welcome, as he was just transferring to the station as a new recruit when everything went to shit in the city. Leon finds Zeno and Grace in the RPD, but Zeno sends this, Mr. X clone after Leon. Fed up with all this shit, Leon kills Mr. X, heads down really deep into the underground, fights some
More
fuck-ass
plants!
and at last enters a facility
Plantasy!
we've never seen up till now. Ark. Bro, I tried to leave Ark, but it won't let me forget. I should probably fill you in on what the hell this facility is all about. The Ark, which is referring to Noah's Ark, of course, was a facility Umbrella owned that was supposed to be totally hidden from both the public and any potential rival organizations. It was also the place where Spencer contained Elpis. He didn't want Elpis to get out, seemingly until he was ready. But as we know, his life was put to an end by Mr. Wesker before he could release Elpis. Leon's condition is getting even worse. Fighting through the Ark, he eventually clashes axes with this super soldier named Hunk, who's apparently a fan favorite that's been around since RE2. This guy was actually part of the squad who killed William Birkin back in the day, and as of now, he's been protecting Elpis.
I don't think it's ever truly confirmed that it's Hunk, but I think if you just take all the pieces of the puzzle that they give you here, especially like the ode or the compliment that Leon gives Hunk, and then they kind of make it a big deal with the compliment thing as well, I think we can kind of infer that it's Hunk. But also, I don't think he actually dies as well. His body's gone if you go back after this scenario. Like, you kill him or you drop him down, kill him. You go to your new objective, and if you want to come back later on, his body is gone. I think there's two ways they can go about this. One is that they can either confirm or deny whether or not the audience really wants this to be the case, whether they want it to be Hunk. If it's a pretty big backlash and like, that's a lame way for Hunk to die, Hunk wouldn't go out like that, blah, 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 blah. He's obviously infected over there. You can see his hand, so maybe he's a little bit slower as well. His hand's all fucked up. It's the same thing that Leon has, whatever else, his glove is off. But if it's bad, then they can just kind of be like, oh, well, we never said it's Hunk. We just made it seem like it. Well, it's not actually him. And then if it's good, they can kind of run with it, or at least even make some other DLC with it. Either way, I don't think he's actually dead. There's some other things that they can build off of that as well. But he's been the biggest mystery of, like, I don't want to say the mainline characters, but it's some pretty big characters. To me, he reminds me of kind of like Itachi from Naruto, where he's got some pretty big parts in the story, but he's not really around a lot. Like, he's just an aura farming badass motherfucker who's just good at what he does. But he's not really around as much as people would like to see him. I would like to have a little bit more involving Hunk going into the future. It'd be super cool to play some bonus or DLC involving him.
Leon kills Hunk.
Extra bonus. We already have some from RE2.
Leon carries on into the central core area where Elpis lays dormant. Zeno basically explains that the connections were desperate to get their hands on Elpis after infiltrating the facility, and their hunch was that Grace would somehow know the password needed in order to release Elpis. I
will say, going into this, I was paying attention, but at the very moment when they come to release this stuff, I got the right answer. But I thought it was wrong. It's kind of, I guess, backwards than most people. Most people assume destroying Elpis was the right thing. Releasing Elpis was the wrong. I thought the same. I thought destroying it might have been right. Releasing it was wrong. But I chose what I thought would be the wrong option. And then after, eventually it clicked. Obviously, when the dialogue started flowing, it clicked that of course it was right. But in the moment, it's a panic moment, and they don't. A lot of people second guess themselves. I second guessed myself so hard here. I think a lot of people did. I thought destroy was the right call, but because I thought that, I chose the wrong, because I like to choose the wrong things sometimes.
Were to be entered, Elpis would be destroyed, hence why they were so obsessed with finding the password. Grace is like, I don't know the password, what the fuck? But Zeno doesn't believe her. Leon shows up and grabs Grace, and the two end up in a lower part of the facility where they have to split up and find more lore and shit.
Also, random side note, while we're talking about the password stuff, because we knew that typing in anything wrong would fuck it up, the obvious answer is to type in the right answer, like to not destroy it, because otherwise she would just go and type in whatever. It wouldn't actually give it technically speaking, you wouldn't really care about the option. You would just press one letter, then press enter, and then boom, everything's going to destroy. But because it gives you the option, you should kind of know that you're supposed to choose hope, or the right answer at least. Not even joking though, the name of the thing is the Greek goddess of hope, remember? Yeah. It's all, like, even Ouroboros, all the Greek stuff, Ouroboros, Elpis, like, it all kind of ties into, or at least their names of a lot of these viruses.
Grace finds a bunch of lore on a floppy disk that her mom Alyssa hid behind a painting way back when, and this thing reveals everything.
Yeah, it reveals my stream.
We find an interview Alyssa did with Spencer, where he basically explains this.
What kind of legacy do you want to leave behind?
My research opened.
See, it's a lot of Greek.
Unleashing disaster upon the world.
Yeah, it's a lot of Greek references.
And I am plagued by guilt.
Wham wham.
Happiness cannot be achieved at the expense of others. I only hope it serves as a requiem for those who have passed.
He said the thing!
After those huge lore drops, Grace sees Leon on the monitors and he's not looking so good. So she rushes through a door, ending up in some weird Spencer room where we find his old wheelchair. And then Grace finally finds Leon again, who's basically minutes from death due to his infection. Grace and Leon make it back to the Elpis terminal, where Xeno's just kind of waiting for them. The Elpis computer then asks the question, what does the creator desire? It is here that Grace is presented with a choice. She can either destroy Elpis, like Leon asked her to do, or she can release it. This gives us the two endings to the game. If Grace decides to destroy Elpis, she types destruction in the prompt.
Nothing happens.
And what follows is pretty
the
much
game
exactly
just ends.
what she typed.
It goes to
facility
credits.
Collapses, and Leon sacrifices himself while Grace escapes.
Crazy.
Grace takes an elevator out, and the game ends. So what about the other endings? Well, if you release Elpis instead, then when presented with the question of what the creator desires, Grace types hope.
I do like for the destruction thing, she spent so much time typing that out. She could have pressed anything, and the wrong answer would destroy it, so you could just press D.
Elpis is opened up, and we finally get to see what it was all along. A cluster of vials is revealed, and Xeno grabs one, quickly injecting himself since he assumes it'll make him strong. But it doesn't. Instead, as the characters connect the dots in real time, the answer is made clear. Elpis is a vaccine. And it's not just any vaccine, it's a vaccine that destroys all viruses. Xeno realizes his mistake as his knockoff Wesker powers fade away. At that moment, a surviving Victor Gideon enters the room. Xeno is pissed at him, telling Gideon his master was a dumbass, to which Gideon responds by decapitating the man. It's at this point we can reveal what Victor Gideon actually is. Turns out, he's a tyrant, but not just any. Gideon is a nemesis, some kind of alternate version to the one in Resident Evil 3. Clearly one big difference being that Gideon actually speaks and communicates. He reasons at the very least. This also explains why Gideon calls Spencer his master, because Spencer literally made him. Gideon seems to think Elpis was genius, realizing its outcome and the anarchy that would follow. The tyrant then stabs Grace with his tentacle, and Grace quickly injects Leon with a vial of Elpis,
way too long to
heals his infection.
Way too long to inject there. I keep talking over him, but fuck, that part pissed me off. I watched probably another 3 or 4 playthroughs. Every single person was freaking out at this part, yelling, Grace, what are you doing? Stab Leon with the cure. What she took so long, dude. It was insane.
Gideon yoinks a vial and then activates some kind of destruction sequence as he wants to bring it all down. Most likely, it seems like Gideon misinterpreted Spencer's wish here, thinking Spencer made Elpis for him to have. With such leverage in Gideon's hands, he'd be unstoppable. With no viruses, governments around the world would flounder because of their reliance on bioweapons, and Gideon could be the arbiter of all of it. Because Leon and Grace are stuck down in this hole with Gideon, Bro decides he needs to kill them because they could potentially get in his way. This is where Leon and Gideon have their final showdown.
I know we are on currently a lore video right now, but just seeing this fight, yesterday I was actually present for a speedrun world record held by Spicy now, I believe 1:25:04. So super cool to watch that happen. I did try some RE9 challenges with Insanity Mode not too long ago. I took a little bit of strategy stuff from Utrans, Distortion, and Spicy. And honestly, just the Resident Evil, I know we're doing the lore thing right now, but the entire community, whether it's speedrunning or challenges, these really cool YouTubers, I'll even post them right here if you guys have never seen some of the Resident Evil challenge stuff. I'm sure you guys have. They're way bigger channels than I am, but super fun people, super welcoming. Everybody's super nice. The entire challenge speedrunning community of Resident Evil is indeed very helpful. So if you guys are ever curious about that stuff, it's very easy to get involved. There's a lot of Discords and whatever else. But it was really cool to be there for that speed run. That boss fight was awesome. Watching him beat the previous world record by I believe about 13 seconds, even after a couple small tiny mess ups at the end, it was truly a treat. Resident Evil is a very fun game to watch the speedruns. Lots of crazy strats you would never believe off of just a normal playthrough. And especially on Insanity Mode, beating it in an hour and 25 minutes is wild. Having amazing fun lore on top of all of that is it just makes this franchise just so lovable. So that world record was so fun to watch. I got to type I was here for a really cool thing. I'm sure it's a YouTube video up right now, but I got to type it. I just got to type I was here. Yeah, it's fucking awesome. Nasty looking guy.
Gideon
A
evolves.
nemesis.
You know, he's a nemesis. And Leon finishes him off.
Nemesis. Leon's such a badass. Resident Evil, yeah, we got Resident Evil lore going on right now. About 10 minutes left, just watching some
Grace
stuff.
and Leon,
It's sexy,
realizing there's no way
motherfucker.
out, just kind of sit it out, expecting everything to end as the facility collapses. The lights go out.
Nemesis. Damn! I told you there'd be more flashbangs. Yeah. Oh. Real quick, originally, when this part popped up during the game, they said Captain Renfield. And I thought to myself, oh, it must be Chris. It's BSAA. He left that. So is it who I think it is? Is it? That's because that would be crazy. Especially coming to the next games and whatnot. Captain Redfield. I know he hot in that jacket. Oh, it's Houndwolf. Wait, well, I thought it was BSAA. Oh, BSAA was out. It's not. Okay, I completely misunderstood. It is not BSAA. It is Houndwolf. Why did I think it was?
Enter Houndwolf Squad. So Leon and Grace survive. And guess who also survives? Emily. Leon basically didn't hit any of her vitals, and
right,
her real
sure,
body
dude.
was inside the monster after she had transformed. It's a little
Sure,
too
dude.
convenient,
Yeah.
but hey, I'll let it pass because she's adorable and did
Yeah.
not deserve any of this shit. Over the next few weeks, news reports are all over the situation, many hinting at the government being to blame for Umbrella's bankruptcy, as well as being responsible for so many cover-ups. Furthermore, there are theories that an unknown organization has been in the shadows controlling the US government. Of course, the president denies everything. So if you're like me, you probably have a lot of questions. One of the big ones for
not
me
even a
is,
little.
what's the deal with the Ark? Well, once you beat Requiem, you get access to Grace's 60-page report, and this thing is super useful. Here's the gist of what we learned, and a current up-to-date
I didn't know
recap
that.
of the events involving Umbrella, Spencer, even James Marcus, the connections, and the US government. Up until October 2026 in-universe, the general public knew little about what actually happened in Raccoon City.
Realized yesterday the final boss is two bodies. Victor under the nemesis coming out from his back above him. If you look at a lot of them, you'll see like usually the faces or their body parts or like their pre-existing bodies still attached to what their final creation is. Not for everybody. It's definitely not for everybody. Obviously the mutation reacts differently for them, but you'll see a lot of times they'll have like a face somewhere on their body or whatever. It's usually not the main focus of what they've got going on crazy transformation wise. But I think it's a cool little detail. It's to show them like, hey, this was once a person. It's not just some crazy this was once a human being and now they are whatever.
The events of Requiem, Grace cracks it wide open. All this time, since 1998, Raccoon City had been used as a hub for the production and trafficking of bioweapons. The following information reveals the truth of the incident. While it is absolutely true that Spencer relentlessly pursued the evolution of humanity by developing bioweapons using the most inhumane and illegal methods imaginable, the man was used as a convenient scapegoat for parties who would commit more acts of violence than he ever could in a lifetime. The involvement of rivals was inevitable because in the 1980s, the conflict between Spencer and Marcus would grow volatile. Spencer had Marcus demoted and took control of his T-virus research. Furthermore, Umbrella built a massive underground facility beneath Raccoon City called ARC. It went on to become their administrative command center for research. It was also in 1980 that the first mention of Elpis is found in records. Things began to go awry for Umbrella behind the scenes when in 1986, James Marcus received a $30 million donation from what we only know as F Foundation, which FBI sources proved was a puppet organization from the Connections. Speaking of which, in Grace's report, she clarifies the truth about the Connections. They're said to be a criminal organization that various government agencies have been sounding the alarm against for years. Evidence suggests the Connections sought involvement with Umbrella's central operations. More documents show their connection to James Marcus's protege, Brandon Bailey.
Dude, that's crazy. We beat the game. I never went back to like look through documents. There's a 60-page report, Squid. This is fucking insane. I had no idea. I just passed over that. This is also why I watch these videos, because there's little lore, things like that I would have missed. But 60 pages is a lot to just
It's implied
toss.
that since Marcus was killed in 1988 at Spencer's order, Brandon Bailey then took over his role as the mole within Umbrella to keep feeding the Connections the information that they wanted. By the 1990s, Umbrella was growing far too large to control. Spencer, in his age, just couldn't keep up. Even if
I wouldn't doubt it's on the menu, but I completely missed it. So
if he wasn't old, I mean, how could he? The organization was just huge. This resulted in poor management and disasters happening at various Umbrella-owned facilities around the world. As Umbrella agents also infiltrated the US government, this further meant a loss of control for Spencer. Even with everything going to shit though, Spencer finished his work at ARC, his work on Elpis. In a confiscated message Spencer had sent during this period, he said the following: Tricell, HCF, the family, and Umbrella. Elpis shall bring it all to an end. He literally took the true purpose of
W.
Elpis to
Oswell.
grave, and it was assumed based on what little he had said about it, that Elpis was a massively powerful, unprecedented bioweapon. Of course, anyone who thought this couldn't be further from the truth. Another mysterious part of Requiem is a sequence I didn't mention yet, which happens about 3/4 of the way through the game. It involves an orphanage that is actually the same one seen back in RE2. In the sequence, you play as a little girl, one of the test subjects in one of Spencer's immortality projects. The orphanage appeared to, at one point, have a bunch of at least slightly normal, albeit lab-grown girls that looked pretty similar. But, well, during the sequence, something seems to have gone horribly wrong. Creepy, undead girls, prior orphans who had seemingly died and then come back to life, popping out of their coffins, take over the orphanage and they kill the adults, taunting you, the only seemingly normal little girl, along the way. Weirdly, this whole thing doesn't seem super connected to Grace, though, because based on the year the sequence happens, Grace couldn't have even been born by then.
Yeah, this was a weird scene to me. Lore-wise, game-wise, everything-wise. But also, they made, I know Grace is like the goal here to try and clone what she is, so you would have all these very similar looking things, but they made it seem like it was Grace up until the very end. I think maybe that's what they're going for, but it's felt so weirdly placed. Also just a very slow and annoying area to be in.
Based on Grace's report though, and documentation, it was in the 1990s after Spencer finished Elpis that he ceased involvement in the orphanage project. In the late 90s, William Birkin took over the orphanage research, and in 98, the researcher turned against Spencer, leading, of course, to yet another leak of the T-virus during that year. By the time Raccoon City was overrun, the government claimed to launch the missile to stop the infection. But that's not why they did it. Behind the scenes, it was discovered that the Connections took many steps to separate the government from Umbrella. They went one step further by pressuring the government to missile strike the city. The Connections wanted to acquire Umbrella's assets, and the asset they were most insistent on getting? Elpis. So right before they orchestrated the missile strike on the city, the Connections took over ARC, securing Elpis for themselves. By 2004, Umbrella was prosecuted and forced into bankruptcy. The blame was placed on its CEO, Spencer. From there...
You know what's even funny is, I think initially when we were talking about the explosion and the missile that was getting sent to Raccoon City, is I also just got the lore wrong. That I said that Umbrella was the one who sent the missile. They fooled me. Connections fooled me too. I fell for the fake lore. And me and the government both. Maybe they're not so bad.
ARC was used by the Connections and likely the US government as a center for research for both making as well as distributing bioweapons.
Dude, this guy's drip is insane. Fuck the lore. I need a suit like that. That shit's crazy. I'm gonna start wearing my jacket like that too. I'm gonna show up like that to every fucking stream from here on out.
Parties around the world. Though we can't know his true feelings, Spencer shows signs of remorse in one of the last recorded pieces of video evidence of the man, taken by Alyssa Ashcroft. It's possible he truly felt regret about all that he had done, especially based on what he says here.
Happiness cannot be achieved at the expense of others.
It could be interpreted that Spencer finished Elpis as an act of atonement, but it also could be interpreted that it was the only thing he could truly do to get revenge on everyone who had used him and the viruses he had created. It was his only way to take them down with him, to wipe it all away. In the end, the only one who could possibly know what he truly felt was Spencer himself. In an after-credits bonus sequence, we see that Grace is doing well, continuing her work at the FBI. She's also, since then, adopted Emily. The girl might even be able to see now, since based on this photo, her eyes look different from before. Last, we see an establishing shot of the Raccoon City crater. It cuts to a dead BSAA agent as unknown soldiers walk past the corpse. One of the unknown soldiers remarks how they neutralized remaining BSAA agents and were trying to grab the objective before the Wolf Squad arrived. Then it cuts to black. Probably the objective he's referring to is some lost sample of Elpis, and this, along with a lot of the news media bits we've seen in Requiem, hint towards the next game in the series being centered around the US government and whatever secret agency is likely controlling it. As a super new Resident Evil fan, I gotta say, I feel lucky. It's been a...
Look at that. One pause. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I probably miscounted that, but it's a lot.
Real joy to cover this series, even among the less than desirable entries. Resident Evil as a whole is a franchise that has genuinely continued to slap to this day. Moist Critical put it well in his video on Requiem when he said this.
I know Resident Evil like Elon Musk knows ketamine. So when I say what I'm about to say here, just know, this means something, man. I think Resident Evil Requiem is a top 5 Resident Evil game.
Given what Requiem hints at for the
It's my
next
number
game,
one.
I'm excited because
It
it's
is.
about time we finally corner the big bad that has been so pivotal in being not only aware of the countless atrocities committed with bioweapons, but has actively used and traded them on the global market. None other than the United States government. It's especially cathartic to see Resident Evil going in this direction, given where we're at in real life with our absolutely wicked administration, which as of making this video on March 1st, 2026, just started a war with Iran, killing their supreme leader. So much for not wanting to start wars. It wasn't even that long ago either that we
We're getting
captured
political.
Venezuela's president and brought him to our country, which violated constitutional and international law. All the while, we have an organization called ICE that is actively capturing immigrants while brutally killing anyone, including
I usually don't talk about politics on the channel. Fuck ICE.
U.S. citizens who even
Just in case you were
remotely
ever
stand in the way,
wondering.
and none of the thugs who are killing people are even prosecuted for their actions. Needless to say, if Resident Evil 10 is going to make the U.S. government lore accurate, they're going to need more than just bioweapons, because as it stands, our real government is infinitely more dangerous, corrupt, and outright evil than anything these games have portrayed them to be thus far. But with all of that said, what did you think about Requiem? What do you think about Resident Evil? Where do you think Capcom is going to go next with the franchise? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, click the subscribe button.
Are we so cool? It absolutely is. Yeah, it absolutely is. I love that you hard pause for that. Absolutely. That's something like that deserves a hard pause. If you guys are ever confused on where I stood with that, just know that's where I stand. Not a big politics guy because of other reasons and whatever the heck else. I think I want my channel to be an escape and a very accepting place for all, but sometimes certain things aren't accepting and whatever else, so we shun those things. We say fuck those things because they are not doing what this channel wants to do, and that is be welcome to everybody. So yeah, fuck guys. That was a very, very good made video. I'm gonna click on this guy's channel, Netty the Noodle. Super funny. Oh, pretty easy take. Good on you. I think it's the right take. I think it's pretty easy and simple. We've got Hollow Knight, Silksong. We've got Chronos, Grounded 2, Death Stranding 1 and 2. Few things on this channel. I think this is one we come back to. If I do say so myself, what are you guys thinking about that? I'm gonna press subscribe to Netty the Noodle. If you are watching this lore video right now and you see the big shiny lore up there at the tippy top, you should probably come subscribe to this channel as well. Or yeah, you can wait for me to react to some stuff, but there's gonna be a long time before I play certain games. Cult of the Lamb is on the list. A lot of other games are on the list. We'll get there when we get there. So obviously we have the story of RE9 leading into what RE10 is supposed to be. That end cutscene got me pretty hyped. I loved RE9, everything that they did with the franchise, the direction that they've been going since 7, 8, and 9 to kind of tone things down a little bit, still keep it about bioweapons, still keep it about ethical or unethical experimentation of the human body on, well, people who might deserve it and people who don't deserve it, mostly innocent people and all the chaos that comes from that. I love our main characters. I love the newer characters they've introduced. There's a whole lot to this to try and keep track of. There are so many names, and I've probably forgot majority of them as is. But at the very least, we learned a lot with this lore. We got a lot of help from the chat. We got a lot of help from our good friend Netty the Noodle, who I'm now subscribed to, and I think you guys should check out his channel as well for other videos that you'd want to see, because there's a whole lot of fun lore that I really love the pacing of this video and everything that it had to do. It was a great time. It was a lot of good humor, and genuinely just seems like a great YouTuber. But that is officially it for our Resident Evil timeline lore explained. Shout out to the members of the community and the chatters up above. The extra support you guys provide means oh so very much to me. Thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.